Good evening. We're ready to begin. The Planning Commission meeting is now called to order. This meeting has been properly noticed and posted in compliance with the open meeting law. We're live on KCLV Channel 2, and this meeting will be rebroadcast Saturday at 10 a.m., the following Monday at midnight, and Tuesday at 5 a.m. and 6 p.m. Would everyone please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Trowbridge.
Present.
Commissioner Quinn.
Here.
Commissioner Flangus.
Here.
Commissioner Goins.
Present.
Commissioner Truesdale.
Present.
Commissioner Moody.
Present.
Commissioner Schlotman.
Present.
Thank you.
We have a quorum. I call your attention to the information printed in your agenda concerning our actions and the appeal and review process, if appropriate. Please read this carefully, and if you have any questions, staff is available. Also, the second page of the agenda contains our rules of conduct. We appreciate your adhering to these rules so we have a smooth meeting. Thank you. Now, as generally appropriate when we have a brand new planning commissioner, I'd like the opportunity to newly appointed Commissioner Trinity Schlotman to introduce himself and maybe just give us a few words about his background.
Sure, thank you. I moved to Las Vegas to construct two loft communities here in the downtown redevelopment area about 8 years ago, and was embraced by this community and all of its potential. Over these years, I have appeared many times before City Council and this Planning Commission seeking your input and approvals. I've always been impressed by your dedication and commitment to creating a better community. To now join you as the newest Planning Commissioner, it's a great honor and a privilege. And I'm grateful that Councilman Coffin has appointed me to this commission, and I look forward to serving the community. Thank you.
Well, thank you, and we welcome you. Look forward to serving with you. We now have, under the new state law, the opportunity for public comment at the start of the meeting. And so all comments made under this item for specific action items will be cross-referenced to those items. Are there any members of the public who wish to speak under this portion of the agenda? Seeing none, we can move right ahead to the minutes. Okay, is there a motion to approve the minutes of the Planning Commission meeting of July 12th, 2011?
Mr. Chairman, I wasn't present at the last Planning Commission hearing, so I'll be abstaining from this item.
Very appropriate.
Mr. Chairman, move to approve the minutes from the July 12, 2011 Planning Commission meeting.
Motion has been made. Please cast your vote. Post. Motion carries. Next, are there any items from the Planning Commission, staff, or other applicant who wish to be stricken or held in abeyance to a future meeting may be brought forward and acted upon at this time? Let's move on to our housekeeping items. Are there any items that you'd like to pull forward for action?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Items 14 and 15, the applicant has requested these items be obeyed to the September 13th Planning Commission meeting to resolve neighborhood concerns. Items 16 and 17, the applicant has requested these items be obeyed to the September 13th Planning Commission meeting. Items 18 through 20, the applicant has requested these items be obeyed to the September 13th Planning Commission meeting to allow for a neighborhood meeting. Item 21, the applicant has requested this item be obeyed to September 13th to allow for a neighborhood meeting. Items 30 and 31, the applicant has requested these items be obeyed to September 13th to allow for a neighborhood meeting. Item 40, the applicant has requested this item be obeyed to September 13th also for a neighborhood meeting. Item 41, the applicant has requested this item be obeyed to September 13th. And item 43, the applicant has requested this item also be obeyed to September 13th.
Thank you. Does anyone in attendance wish to speak on any of these items that are being recommended for removal from the agenda? Seeing none, Commissioner Goins, your motion on these housekeeping items would be appropriate at this time.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, move to approve the housekeeping orders as read in by staff.
Motion has been made. Please cast your vote. Please post. I'll punch that baby once. Thank you. The motion carries. We now move on to the consent items. Consent items are considered routine by the Planning Commission and may be enacted by one motion. However, any item may be discussed if a commissioner, member, or an applicant so desires. There are no consent items, so we now move to one motion, one vote. The following items are items that may be conducted in a one motion, one vote. They are considered routine, non-public, and public hearing items. All public hearings and non-public hearings will be opened at one time. Any person representing an application or a member of the public or a member of the Planning Commission not in agreement with the conditions and all standard conditions for the application recommended by staff should request to have that item removed from this part of the agenda. Item number 7 is a special use permit 42-254. The applicant is Gorel Holdings, LLC. The owner is Chishuan Wu for a possible action on a request for a special use permit for a beer, wine cooler on-sale establishment within an existing 5,981 square foot restaurant at 2131 Rock Springs Drive, Ward 1. Item number 2 is a vacation 42053. The applicant owner is the City of Las Vegas. It's for possible action on a petition to vacate a portion of a public right-of-way at the northeast corner of 4th Street and Stewart Avenue. That's in Ward 5. Item number 9 is a vacation 42246. The applicant owner is the Howard Hughes Company, LLC, for possible action on a petition to vacate all public street right-of-ways within a residential subdivision generally located at the southwest corner of Crossbridge Drive and Sky Vista Drive. That's in Ward 2. And item number 10 is the Site Development Review 42260. The applicant owner is Symphony Park Master Plan Association, Inc., for possible action on a request for a site development plan review for a private park at the intersection of Symphony Park Avenue and Grand Central Parkway. That's in Ward 5. Staff, do you have any comments to make regarding those particular items?
No, sir.
Okay, then the public hearing is declared open. Anyone wishing to speak on these items is welcome to approach the microphone and give your name for the record. Seeing none, whoops, we have one coming.
Mr. Chairman and members of the Commission, my name is Charles Kubat of 6130 Elton Avenue. I'm here tonight for the Symphony Park Master Association and Newland Real Estate Group. And I just thought I would take the opportunity to come up and just make you aware in visual terms, again, of what this item is. Simply, we're asking for final action here, but this is the entrance piece of the park for Symphony Park and is a companion piece to the park that you approved last month with the Smith Performing Arts Center. So with that, I'd ask for your approval.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wish to speak on any of the items in the one motion, one vote portion? Seeing none, I'll declare the public hearing closed and ask for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, on the one motion, one vote items, I move for approval of items 7 through 10. I wanted to make, I think the chairman called item 8 number 2 earlier, but it actually is number 8. So move for approval subject to all staff's recommendations and conditions.
Motion has been made. Please cast your votes. Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, items 7, 8, and 9 will go forward to the September 7th City Council meeting. Item number 10 is final action in the absence of an appeal within 10 days.
Okay, we now move on to the public hearing items. Item number 11 and companion items 12 and 13 will all be read together and held together. Item number 11, the General Plan Amendment 41777. The applicant owner is the Rancho Properties, LLC. It's for possible action on a request for a general plan amendment from O Office to light industry research to medium-density residential at 3000 North Michael Way, Ward 5. Item number 12 is zoning, 41778. It's for possible action on a request for a rezoning from O Office and CM Commercial Industrial to R3 Medium-Density Residential. And item number 13 is site development review, 41779, for possible action on a request for a site development plan review for a 136-unit apartment complex with a waiver to allow no landscape buffer along portions of the north perimeter where 6 feet is required. Staff report, please, on these items.
Mr. Chairman, this item was was held in abeyance to allow for the applicant to meet with the Clark County Aviation Department to address their concerns. Staff notes that the location of this project is near the end of the primary runway at North Las Vegas Airport and is in the final approach path for aircraft, which supports the current land use designation of LIR. Staff is recommending denial of all 3 applications as staff finds that it not be compatible and harmonious with the surrounding land use.
Thank you. Now I'll declare the public hearing open. Anyone in attendance wish to speak on the matter, please approach the microphone and give your name for the record.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, excuse me before we get started. I will
Okay.
be abstaining on items 11, 12, and 13. As an attorney, I represented clients in extensive litigation against the principal of the applicant, Ernest Becker, Jr. So out of an abundance of caution, I will be abstaining.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman,
Now open.
I've entered into contracts with the architect for this, the same architect that the applicant has used, but I don't feel this would sway my decision one way or another.
Well, and Mr. Chairman, I think that's okay because what I understand is that Commissioner Schlottman, while he used this architect at one point, his relationship with the architect is done on the project he was using. So he's under 281A, he's free to go ahead and vote on this item after disclosure.
Thank you. Now we can proceed with the public hearing portion, sir.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chairman and members of the Commission, for the record, my name is Richard Bryan of the law firm of Lionel Sawyer and Collins, 300 South 4th Street, Las Vegas, Nevada, 89101. I'm joined by the principal of the applicant, Mr. Ernie Becker, Jr., and at this point, Mr. Chairman, I believe that the Commission has previously been provided with a pamphlet indicating the nature of these apartments that were being proposed. As staff has indicated, it's 136 units. 80 of those units would be 2-bedroom. 56 units would be 3-bedroom, and these apartments would be rented at a range of approximately $995 to $1,200 per month. These replicate apartments that the developer has previously built along Alexander and Martin Luther King. This is the entrance of the project, as it will appear. That's actually the project that was developed at Martin Luther King and Alexander. And to give you some idea of the amenities that would be provided, this is the swimming pool complex that would be part of that project as well. Mr. Chairman and members of the Commission, my understanding that the primary concern that you had when this matter was previously before you was the concerns expressed by the airport, and I'd like to address those and, of course, respond to any questions that you or members of the Commission may have. As you know, as a matter of general policy, the Aviation Department of Clark County files an objection to all applications to change a use to include residential. That is pro forma, and they did so in this particular case. Mr. Becker contacted me after the last meeting in which this matter was abated to allow him time to meet with the Aviation Department, and at that point I was engaged to do so. I would represent to you that I went out and talked with Mr. Randy Walker, who, as you know, is the Aviation Department head, and I met with one of his senior staff members, Mr. Jeffrey Jacquart. And Mr. Walker authorized me to indicate that as a matter of policy, he would not express support for the project, but he did authorize me to represent each and every one of you that the airport had no objection. The airport had no objection, and I think there are reasons for that, if I might just again take a moment of your time here. As you know, those of you that have been out there see it, this is the property that Mr. Becker seeks. It has been indicated by staff there's office and light industrial. and this is Michael Way here to orient you. This is Cheyenne. You will notice that on three sides of the proposed project, there's residential property. Here to the south, here to the west, and to the north, there are some apartments. Now, the airport does not show on this map, but I'll bring another chart in just a moment. The airport is located over here. So this project here previously approved, and that is actually closer in terms of proximity to the airport and is more directly under the flight plan. This is Rancho Drive. The airport, as you all know, is to the east of the highway, so there's considerable distance. It is true that this project in part does underlie part of the approach pattern, and let me, if I may, show you this to illustrate the point. This is the airport. These are the runways. This is the main east-west, and you will see that Mr. Becker is on the periphery of that flight plan. Now, it is our view that this is a project that is consistent with what immediately surrounds the project, that indeed, as a practical matter, in terms of the number of people that might be in that project, if it were approved for a business park or an office complex, there would indeed be a good many more people in the area than there would be in the apartments that are being proposed. Mr. Becker did some staff analysis on that, and just to give you some kind of indication, because at least some who have sent in postcards have expressed a concern about traffic issues. I would invite your attention to the staff report that indicates that if this project is approved, the streets that are presently there are sufficient to accommodate the proposed project, and that's in the staff report itself. While addressing the staff report, let me indicate to you that if you see fit to approve this project, we are in support of all of the conditions that have been imposed upon us by staff for your consideration. The one thing that Mr. Walker, the airport director, did ask me to point out to you, and it is a staff recommendation, that any of the proposed tenants would be notified that they are at or near a noise area, and that notice would have to be given to them separate and apart. And we are certainly agreeable to that. Let me again adjust the traffic just ever so briefly. In an average day for the apartment project that's planned, there would be 948 trips. If, as the zoning allows, this were a business park, some 2,145 trips. So the frequency of the trips is considerably less. With respect to the number of persons who are present in the area, for the apartment complex that's being proposed here, the 136 units, you're looking at 600 persons. If the alternative industrial office complex, which this zoning would allow, were developed, some 1,300 persons at any one time might be in the project. So I think in terms of the density of individuals who would be at any one time actually is less with the apartment project that's proposed as opposed to development that would be permitted under the existing zoning. So we hope, Mr. Chairman and members of the Commission, that you would favorably consider this and recommend to the Council that the three items that are on the agenda be approved, and I would be happy to respond to any questions you have, as would Mr. Becker.
Thank you. Anyone else in attendance wish to speak on this particular item? Sir?
Good evening, Chairman and members of the Commission. David Compson, 5509 Mare Way. I'd like to speak in opposition of this, please. A couple items that were failured to be mentioned was the fact that there are already a large amount of apartment complexes just north of this proposed project. At the intersection of Cheyenne and Michael Way, there is a complex on each corner of that intersection, a combination of multi-story complex and also duplex-style condominiums or homes. Because there's a large amount of people in that area, the crime rate in our neighborhood, which I'm one block to the south, is very high. In my neighborhood, there is not a high crime rate, but just one block to the north, it's very large. I would please ask that you would consider the amount of apartment complexes that are already in the area and the amount of crime that it brings in. Also, please, I would appreciate you following staff recommendations and following the county's request for denial due to the airport issue. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else in attendance wishing to speak?
Chairman, would you like me to respond? I don't want to violate your protocol, but I think I could respond briefly if that's permitted.
Let me see if there's anyone else that wishes to speak, and then
Certainly,
you can respond to all of them the same. Anyone else in attendance wishing to speak? Seeing none, I declare the public hearing closed and offer the applicant the opportunity to respond.
Mr. Chairman, just very briefly, let me again show this map to you and orient it here. This is to the north, and this is to the south here. These are all residential here. Now, the apartments that the gentleman alluded to that are on Cheyenne that would be on the south side, for those that you've been there, those are, to be charitable, a blight and an eyesore. I mean, I can certainly understand his concern. In fact, I wasn't even sure when I went out to look at the property the other day whether they were occupied or vacant because they look like they've been heavily vandalized. The reason why I mentioned to you the size of the apartments here is to indicate that we're looking at a development that is quite nice. The average square foot, for example, would be from $1,140 to $1,240 a square foot, and the monthly rentals $995 to $1,200. So these are quality development with the amenities that would accompany that, and that's why I, at the beginning of my presentation, showed you the type of project that's going to be developed, because it is identical to one that, as I previously indicated, that's on Alexander and Martin Luther King. As a practical matter, I would respectfully submit that if we were here for a business park with a kind of density that would be involved in that, I think we would hear the neighbors say, and understandably so, too much traffic, too much activity. I mean, so to some extent, Mr. Becker is in a catch-22. We all know and are not unmindful in the community that there's not a demand at this point for new office or industrial space. I mean, we have a tremendous surplus. The economic conditions are something that all of us are fully mindful of. Mr. Becker's apartments that I have indicated that are identical to this are 100% occupied. And I would point out, and I think this might be relevant for your consideration, I mean, at a time when the economy needs a bit of a shot in the arm, that this would provide employment for 40 to 50 people in the construction field, that segment of our economy that's probably been hit more severely than any other in the sector. So there is an economic issue as well as a practical thing. This is probably the only thing that as a practical matter could be built. And you're not going to have R1 in this particular location. So I respectfully submit that by way of an additional supplement for the record, and be happy to respond to any questions Mr. Chairman, or you or the members of the commission may have. I would indicate that this is not one of these fanciful projects where you get the entitlements. We've all been to that dance before, and then the developer tries to flip it. I mean, Mr. Becker has engaged the architect. He does his own construction. Obviously, until he gets some indication as to whether you and the council would allow this project to go forward, he has not committed himself to the architect in terms of having the drawings and the renderings that are needed. But he has indicated that if he is fortunate to receive your recommendation and the council's approval, that he is prepared to move forward immediately and could begin construction sometime in the early part of next year after the plans are submitted and approved by the city building department.
Thank you. Now I'd like to turn the matter over to the planning commissioners for discussion and possible motion at the appropriate time.
I just have a quick comment. I think that it's a time that none of us like to see, where we can't build a bunch of houses because people aren't going to buy them, and we can't build a beautiful office park back there because no one's going to rent it. And regardless of who's living back there or working back there, we're still going to have the same impact from the airport. So you're going to see my support tonight, because I think that we're at a time in our life where people need apartments, and as much as we wish for another beautiful housing tract, it's just, we're not there right now. And so I thought a lot about this. I drove by it. I looked at it. I've driven around that area a lot. And I'm kind of sad to say that this is the way it has to go. But in my opinion, this is the way it has to go tonight. So you'll see my support.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, through you. Senator, do you have something to show us what those flight paths are?
I do, Commissioner. When meeting with Mr. Walker, let me make sure I orient this again for you. Can you see this? This would be the proposed project. This is north. What you see on this map.
Can we zoom in on that just a little bit, maybe?
I know it's not the easiest to see, and I apologize for it, but this was a map the airport provided. I think in response to your question, Commissioner Moody, these blue lines indicate tracks. And if you will note, the proposed project is here. So the overflight density is clearly much heavier in this direction, much heavier here, and much heavier here. As a matter of fact, it's relative. I won't say that there are none that overfly this, but this is far less than in other areas. And frankly, with all due respect, areas where the Planning Commission and the city has previously approved a residential project. So I think this would help to illustrate the point that, again, this is at the edge of the approach, and it also would indicate that the frequency of the tracking system would indicate it's somewhat minimal in the context of the airport's operation.
Thank you. And in light of that, that was really my primary concern when Mr. Becker was last in front of the Planning Commission. Looks like, that is a light flight path, considering, all of the others that are there. I also agree it's a unique parcel, probably not appropriate for R1. It also seems far enough west on this particular parcel that even with the two-story level that we're really not posing a danger to the
We're
to the
24
aircraft.
feet, as you know, Commissioner, so I don't think that poses any hazard at all.
Thank you, and for those reasons, you'll see my support on this.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, a couple comments. I'm very familiar with this airport and very familiar with this parcel and some of the things that have happened, the industrial that's there, the retail that's suffered. Now, granted, there are some apartments around there that have not been well maintained, but there are also some very well-maintained apartments around there. And I always believe apartment living is something we've all gone through, and nothing to say we may not be living in apartments again someday, but rental housing is a critical part of our marketplace here. In looking at the impacts in the map you just showed, it does reflect that we're not in the overflight as much. We're not in the heavy noise area. This body and the city has approved housing in that general area west of Rancho previously, and I think this is a very tough situation here, but I also believe that any property, any residential, commercial property located near an airport may have that off chance of having an impact that is a devastation there. But clearly this site, by the flight travel, locates itself or is located in the least traveled area. So I think we've answered the concerns of public safety as much as we can without saying the property is not developable whatsoever. And I do agree the market, the light industrial, the residential, the buffer that was planned through there in today's time is not going to find a marketplace. So I will support this application.
Good, thank you. Mr. Becker, thank you for reaching out to the county aviation and the FAA. As I know last time at the meeting you said you hadn't, but coming back I can certainly see you've done that. It's a pretty difficult decision for me because Number one, I went over there today for lunch and looked at it, and just as other commissioners have echoed, in this economic time, I just don't think if you put any type of R1 or any type of single-family housing there, you'd have any luck at selling that. And it seems like apartments would be the appropriate use. Aesthetically, the apartments that exist around there currently, I would say that they look in a state of blight, mainly because of the management of those apartments. And certainly I know you, Mr. Becker, in your track record in managing your complexes, I would say you do it in an impeccable nature. And so I think it would be appropriate. It's near a two bus routes, the apartments. I think that'll mitigate some of the traffic. You're near the 218 route on Cheyenne and the 106 on Rancho. That being said, as a planning commissioner for this area, I have a number of protests, and why I am going to oppose this, I guess in good nature you could say it'd be a soft opposition. But there are a number of protests for various reasons, and I have to look at it from the perspective of the neighbors. And so those would be my comments.
Seeing no one else makes a comment, I guess I'll make a couple of comments. First, there's a condition that has been accepted by the applicant that they will obtain the approval of FAA before the project goes forward. The second is just a matter of observation, and that is that a higher-end type of apartment development in a particular neighborhood generally has the effect of raising the neighborhood. You know, the apartment residents will want to live in the nicest apartments that are immediately available to them, and the net impact on the negligent apartment operators in the vicinity are going to have to step up to match the competition, or they're going to lose the residents. And so I think it has a very strong potential of being a positive impact on the neighborhood. So having said that, I think that I'm starting to preach to the choir, so I'll shut up and anticipate a motion from someone.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I will make a motion on item 11 to approve GPA 41777.
Motion's been made. Please cast your vote. Opposed? Motion carries.
With regards to item 12, ZON.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
With regards to item 12, ZON 41778, rezoning related to GPA 41777, make a motion to follow staff's as-if approved conditions and approval.
Motion's been made. Please cast your votes. And post. Motion carries.
And with regards to item 13, SDR 41779, move for approval subject to all staffs as if approved conditions with the added amended condition requiring the notification to residents, separate notification that they're in a, I believe it's a noise zone that has to be disclosed. Is that correct, staff?
We're not sure exactly how to enforce that condition. I guess what we would recommend then is the applicant shall provide a notification to tenants that they are located within the airport overlay district, and
I think it has to be part of their rental agreement. Just like, and I think our city attorney, I think what we just have to require is that the applicant, you know, somebody says they weren't given notice and they could prove they weren't, I guess.
We're agreeable to that,
That would
Commissioner.
fall onto the property owner. But if...
And that would be my wording, the notice, because we're not sure where the noise areas are, but we do know where the airport overlay district is.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
City Attorney?
if I may, just to answer the Commissioner's question, certainly if we received complaints from tenants or would-be tenants that they were not notified of the zone that the Senate has discussed, then we could take some action against the property owner.
Okay. Then that's my motions.
Thank you. Motion has been made with the additional condition. Please cast your votes. Opposed? And that motion carries.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission.
Mr. Chairman, these items will go forward to City Council at the September 7th City Council meeting.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fagg.
Items number 14 through 21 have been obeyed, so we can move to item number 22, which is modification 42261. The applicant is the City of Las Vegas. The owner is the Rio Vista Plaza LLC et al. It's for possible action on a request for a major modification of a previously approved rezoning, which is zoning 0074-97, to amend the master development plan to add general personal service and massage accessory uses as permitted uses, and the massage establishment use as a permitted use within an approved special use permit at 7007-7171 which is on West Ann Road. And APNs are multiple plan development zone. It's in Ward 6. Staff report, please.
Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting that the Rio Vista Plaza Master Development Plan be amended to allow the following uses: general personal services, massage accessory, and massage establishment. The general personal service and massage accessory uses are to be permitted by right, whereas the massage establishment use shall be permitted only with the approval of a special use permit. Staff supports the amendment as the proposed uses are permitted in the C1 Limited Commercial District and are consistent with other uses allowed within the existing plan development. If the application is denied, these uses would continue to be prohibited at this location. Please note that there are additional letters of protest and support since publication.
Thank you. Now I'd like to declare the public hearing open on this application. Anyone wishing to speak on the item, please approach the microphone and give your name for the record.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Stephanie Allen, 8345 West Sunset Road. I'm here this evening on behalf of Chris Kempfer, actually substituting for him this evening. We appreciate staff's recommendation of approval. There's a related item, number 23, that I can talk about after if you want. Otherwise, I'm happy to answer any questions.
I think we have to take them as separate items.
Okay.
Thank you. Anyone else in attendance wish to speak on this matter, please approach the microphone and state your name. Seeing none, we'll declare the public hearing closed on this matter, and you've concluded your presentation. You have no rebuttal, so we'll turn over the planning commissioners for discussion and possible motion.
Seeing none, Mr. Chairman, on item 22, I'd move to follow staff's recommendation for approval.
Motion has been made. Please cast your votes. Opposed? Motion carries. In regards to item number 23, which is a special use permit, 42265, the applicant owner is Rio Vista Plaza LLC, is for possible action on a request for a special use permit for a proposed 240 square foot massage establishment in conjunction with a 1,500 square foot day spa with a waiver to allow a distance separation of 50 feet from a residential use where 400 feet is required at 7045 West Ann Road, suite number 130. It's in Ward 6. Staff report, please.
Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting a special use permit for a massage establishment within a proposed day spa with a waiver of the distance separation requirement from a residentially zoned property. The special use permit for a massage establishment is required as the proposed 260 square feet of floor area is greater than the maximum 150 square feet allowed for massage accessory use. As the proposed use is in a commercial shopping center, will be operated in conjunction with a day spa, and is not directly accessible to the residential neighborhood to the east. Staff does support the request.
Thank you. Now I declare the public hearing open. Anyone in attendance wish to speak on the matter, please approach the microphone and give your name for the record. Ms. Allen, you are?
Good evening. I'm Stephanie Allen, 8345 West Sunset Road, here on behalf of the applicant. We appreciate staff's recommendation of approval. As staff mentioned, this is for a day spa. There was previously a day spa in this property for probably maybe close to 10 years. It went out of business in 2009. This is a 1,500 square foot day spa. 260 square feet of it will be used for massage, which equates to 2 rooms. They'll also have estheticians, beauticians for hair, nail technicians, and then a relaxation room. So again, we appreciate staff's recommendations. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. I'd like to declare the public hearing open. Anyone in attendance who wishes to speak on this matter, please approach the microphone and give your name for the record. Seeing none, we'll declare the public hearing closed and turn the matter over to the planning commissioners for discussion and possible motion.
I don't expect any discussion on this unless my fellow commissioners have any.
Just one. Ms. Allen, what are the hours of operation going to be?
They are 7 days a week. Monday through Thursday, they'll be 8 a.m. to 7 p.m., Friday and Saturday, 8 a.m. to 9 p.m., and Sunday, 8 a.m. to 3 p.m.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, with regard to item 23, I'll go ahead and make the motion for approval following staff's recommendations on special use permit 42265.
Thank you. Motion has been made. Please cast your vote. Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, items 22 and 23 will both go forward to City Council on September the 7th.
Thank you. We now move to items number 24 and a companion item number 25. Item number 24 is a special use permit 42182. The applicant is Barnett Lieberman. The owner is 503 Las Vegas LLC for possible action on a request for a major amendment to a previously approved special use permit 20519 for a proposed 24-story mixed-use development consisting of 33,000 square feet of commercial space, 1,150 residential units, and 150-foot tall parking structure on the southwest corner of Charleston Boulevard and 4th Street. It's in Ward 3. The companion item number 25 is Site Development Review 41600 for possible action on a request for a major amendment of a previously approved Site Development Plan Review, SDR 2502, for a proposed 24-story mixed-use development, including 33,000 square feet of commercial space, 1,150 residential units, and a 135-foot tall parking structure. Staff report, please.
Mr. Chairman, before we go forward, I'm going to abstain on this item in as much as I own property within the notice area.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman, I own a business in the notification area and will be constructing several projects within the notification area, so I'll be abstaining from these next two agenda items.
Thank you. Anyone else? Dropping like flies. Okay. We'll now hear the report from the staff. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, the subject site is currently entitled for a proposed 12-story mixed-use development with 1,100 residential units and 58,000 square feet of ground floor retail uses. The applicant proposes to increase the building height to 24 stories, add 50 more units, and decrease the commercial floor area to 33,000 square feet. Parking was originally approved to be located within a structure at the northeast corner of Casino Center Boulevard and Coolidge Avenue, but the applicant now proposes a 14-level structure containing 1,232 stalls and some ground-level commercial uses to be located on the subject site along 4th Street. Access to the structure would be from within the development. The pedestrian plaza space in the interior will be retained. Streetscape and undergrounding of utilities will continue to be provided. As the site generally complies with the Downtown Centennial Plan and Title 19, staff recommends approval with conditions. If denied, the existing entitlements will still apply.
Thank you. Now I'd like to declare the public hearing open. Anyone wishing to speak on behalf of this item, please approach the mic and give your name for the record.
Good evening. Brandon Sprague, Kristen Newman with Aptus, 1200 South 4th Street, on behalf of Barnett Lieberman. We agree with staff's conditions and look forward to hopefully a favorable vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in attendance wishing to speak on this matter, please approach the mic. Sir?
It's okay if I move your stuff. Mike Peterman, 200 Hoover Avenue, owner at Newport Lofts. I have 28 responses from fellow owners in Newport Lofts. We have 26 that are in favor, and 2 that are in favor and 26 opposed. The main reason for this also carries over to the next agenda item, the other building. The main problem we feel is the density. It's a little large for the area. 24 stories is pretty significant. We feel the parking also is inadequate for the amount of units designed. I feel a comparable building is Soho Lofts. They currently have 1.37 parking spots per each unit. And so they have comparable, their whole first floor is all retail, which is not fully built out at this point, and they've just have a couple more places to go. So a comparable unit parking spaces for that building would be about 1,500 spaces. And so that is our big complaint on that particular building. Just the overall scope, how large it is. From the pictures, I must say I personally don't think it's very aesthetic as far as for the Arts District, what it's trying to be at this point in time. That's it.
That's it? Okay, sir. Sir, one more?
Dick Geyer, 8260 Hilton Head Court, president of 18B Las Vegas Arts District Neighborhood Association. This project, we're familiar with the original proposal, obviously. I know Barnett Lieberman for a number of years. As the Planning Commission knows, there were many high-rise buildings proposed for the Arts District area. We were very excited about them as they would bring a quality of people into the area that help it flourish. They were not going to interfere with the different structures there, the warehouses and what have you, in which we like to see the arts flourish and the galleries built and the small restaurants and so on. So we will continue, I think, to support Mr. Lieberman's proposal here and hope that it can be built within the near future. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in attendance wishing to speak on this matter? Seeing none, I'll declare the public hearing closed and turn over to the Planning Commissioners for discussion and possible motion.
Just a couple questions. Wow, I thought I'd never hear the day when I'd hear it say it'd be too tall or too much after all we want. It seems like there are a couple of issues with the parking. Can you real quickly take us through your parking plan and how you plan to park cars in this development?
Well, I appreciate the question. Obviously, this and the companion items that are to come are sort of reorganizing the plan that Barnett had for the two parcels. So now what we're doing is making each of the two sites self-sufficient. So we're changing the site so we have the units along Charleston, adding a larger automated garage in the back. And I wish Barnett was here, but he's the believer, growing up in New York, that relying on the whole downtown for parking, not building all these immense parking garages per each site. So accommodating the residents, a little bit for the retail, but allowing the downtown to develop and from a market standpoint, taking care of some of those needs, as well as when we add the density of people as we will downtown, then the car use hopefully will dissipate as well.
Thank you. So when you say automated garage, is this in the same fashion of what I've seen in New York, where you pull the car in, spins it around, lifts it up, parks it, kind of like a little game of sort?
That's exactly what it is. It's an automated system. You would come up, give your car to the valet. They would put it on the skid. It would go up the ramp on a turntable, and by computer know which spot to go in, and then obviously have a key so it knows where that spot is when you come back to retrieve it. Totally automated.
Thank you.
I just have a quick question. Are any of the units designated for a disabled patron? In other words, grab, handbars and wider hallways and doors and things like that?
Yeah, we've taken great care. Obviously, we have to by the certain codes that we have to do, but I won't get into too much detail, but Barnett's got a patent pending way of building this, and it's all modulated, and when we were designing that module, everything, handicap issues were taken into consideration, so almost every unit is almost accessible. That's compared to just the small percentage normally by code.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have just a question I hope you have answers to. Do you have a chart or something, or maybe you just know from having worked with the project for so long, a comparison of what you have currently authorized versus what you're asking for? You know, you're asking for, you know,
Units?
number of parking spaces, number of units, number of floors.
Yeah, I think what we did is units are very comparable. I think we've asking for a little bit more, maybe 50. And because we have the garage on site now, that's why we went a little bit higher. We went from 12, I think, 20 to 24 now.
So 50 additional dwelling units, 2 extra floors.
No, it's 12 extra floors.
12 extra floors.
Yeah.
And how many extra parking spaces?
Well, originally on the site there was no parking. The other site had the large automated garage serving both parcels.
Yeah, I'm looking at just trying to consider it as one project.
It's probably the same, I'd have to check to be detailed, but I think it's basically the same ratios as what we had before. Is that fair to say? Because we're adding more units on the other site, keeping this site plus 50. So aggregate, the two sites were probably the same ratios because we're adding a small garage with the other
The
parcel.
ratio of parking to houses
Correct.
is being consistent, give or take a little bit.
Yeah, if that's fair right now.
I wonder if I'd be accurate in saying you're probably giving a little bit, or the city's giving a little bit. What is your construction schedule? When are we going to see shovels?
Well, again, I don't want to speak out of turn for Barnett. Part of the reason for doing the project that's going to come before us is to do a smaller project first. Obviously, more achievable from a fundraising standpoint, as well as to get his patented system up off the ground. So I know he's talking to, I guess, HUD and other people, so he's actively pursuing it. The actual schedule I couldn't tell you at this point. He's a believer, as you guys know, and he's doing his best, obviously, through the economy, and that's the reason for we're coming before you, is to create a more realistic project to go forward.
Thank you. Anybody else want to ask questions or make a motion? There's just the 5 of us. I can't make the motion.
Mr. Chairman, on item 24, move to follow staff's recommendation for approval of SUP 42182, subject to all staff's recommendations and condition.
Motion's been made. Please cast your votes. Post.
Commissioner Goins.
Is he going to vote against his own motion? There we go. Motion passes with the 2 extensions. In regards to number 25,
Move to follow staff's recommendation on SDR 41600, subject to all staff's recommendations and condition.
motion's been made. Please cast your votes. And that one carries with the 2 abstentions.
And Mr. Chairman, those items will both go forward to City Council at the September 7th City Council meeting.
Thank you. Congratulations. We now move to item number 26 and companion item number 27. 26 is special use permit 41599. The applicant is Barnett Lieberman, owner of Lee Property LLC, for possible action on a request for a special use permit for proposed mixed-use development on the northeast corner of Casino Center Boulevard and Coolidge Avenue, C2 General Commercial Zone, Ward 3. And item number 27 is site development review 41829 for possible action on a request for a site development plan review for proposed 16-story multi-use development, including 16,000 square feet of commercial space and 330 multiple family residential units, and a waiver of the downtown Centennial Plan's streetscape standards. Staff report, please.
Mr. Chairman, I own a business in the notification area and will be abstaining from the next 2 agenda items.
Thank you. Okay, we can have staff report then, please.
Mr. Chairman, the subject site is currently entitled for a proposed 120-foot tall, 1,500 space automated parking garage with 12,000 gross square feet of ground floor commercial space. The applicant is proposing to replace this project with a 16-story mixed-use development on the site with 330 multifamily residential units and 16,000 square feet of ground floor commercial space. Streetscape will be provided in compliance with Downtown Centennial Plan standards. Revised plans and elevations were received on August 3rd that depict the addition of a 120-foot tall, 390-space automated parking garage on the site with access via the alley. However, the site as designed is unsuitable to accommodate the intensity of the uses proposed, as it does not allow for loading and unloading of commercial vehicles away from street frontages. The project is therefore not compatible with the surrounding development, and staff recommends denial. If denied, the existing entitlements will still apply. Please note that there are additional letters of protest since publication.
Thank you. Now I'd like to declare the public hearing open. Anyone wishing to speak on the matter, please approach the microphone and give your name for the record.
It's good to see you all again. Brandon Sprague, Kristen Newman, Aptus, 1200 South 4th Street, on behalf of Barnett Lieberman. One thing I want to thank staff. We've been working with them. There was 3 items. We've hopefully resolved the first 2. The loading space, I think we ran out of time. We worked out a scheme to accommodate the loading. We were working with Barnett today, so we welcome an additional condition, or however we want to put it, that we work with staff to resolve that issue before City Council if possible. And again, look forward to hopefully a favorable vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in attendance wishing to speak on the matter, please approach the microphone and speak your piece.
Okay, Mike Peterman, 200 Hoover Avenue, and I'm representing 28 other owners at Newport Lofts. And this one is 1 block away from where we will be, and we are surrounded by apartments now. Again, we feel the density is just too great for the area. There is plenty of empty homes in the area, empty houses that people can rent. We just do not feel there's any need for apartments at this time, even though we're talking 3 to 4 years down the road. We understand that would be the possibility. We feel the parking, again, is inadequate. I know they've raised their parking proposal, last I checked, to 390 spaces. We feel there's so much retail proposed for this building. Again, I would submit that following what Soho has for parking, it would be needed to go up to at least 452 spots. So they're still at least 60 spots short based on what they have. We're happy that they want to build something. We just think a little less density would be much more adequate. 336 units? 330. I was close. 330 units. Soho has 120. We have 168. Just think it's way overkill. Okay.
Thank you. Anyone else in attendance wish to speak? Sir?
Brett Wesley Sperry. I live at 200 Hoover Avenue. I also have an art gallery in the Arts District. I appreciate the interest of redeveloping and bringing more housing. Similar to what Mike has said, I'm concerned about the density and the ultimate use. I think there's too much commercial space in this project as well. I would like to see more sustainable living and more quality development in the area. Smaller projects seem to be in our future along the lines of Jewel, where you have 5 to 8 story structures with the appropriate amount of commercial and retail space and parking. So I hope that you commissioners do the best that you can to nudge development in a sustainable direction, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else in attendance wishing to speak?
Yes. Thank you, Commissioners. This is Don Cudler. I also have a unit at 200 200 Hoover, Newport Lofts. Nobody's really addressed the issue of the on-street parking. What you're going to end up with here with 16,000 square feet and an automated garage, which means nobody who's going to be going to these retail spaces, these commercial spaces, will be able to park on site. They're going to be parking on the street. You're going to add this. Hopefully the businesses do well. You're going to add this parking problem to what we already have. You have Casino Center on one side that has no on-street parking. There's already no available parking on Hoover in the area. It's very difficult to find a parking space. Then you have 3rd Street with the businesses there during the day, no parking available. It just is not going to work to put everybody out on the street and try and add to the parking problem that we already have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else in attendance wishing to speak? Seeing none, we'll declare the public hearing closed and offer the applicants the opportunity to respond to some of the comments that were made.
I appreciate the comments. I think one thing in reality, and this is kind of awkward because obviously we're before you, but again, if we get the opportunity to work with staff to modify the loading, we know there's additional retail that we've labeled retail space that actually would be amenity. So if we get the opportunity to revise the plan, we're willing to back down some of those retail numbers and show really the amenity space we would have. I think that would help a little bit the issue. As far as the density, Barnett's a believer in downtown. We have a lot of momentum going. He's been here since 2004, and he's all about the creative class. And if our downtown's going to succeed, the creative class has to move in. They're going to transition through rental housing. And just as a fact that this will be a LEED Silver or better project through his construction method. So he's a believer in that. The density, I think a lot of that comes with entitlement. Whether he ultimately builds the 330 or not, I don't know. I know the groups he's talking to now are around the 250 unit density. I think that's where we are.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I understand the applicant correctly, this is spec zoning? It's just kind of a one-off flyer?
No.
I mean, you say he's talking to people about 200 units. I mean, I think for me as a planning commissioner and somebody who believes in the Arts District and downtown, we need to have real projects with real developers being presented that have a real chance of going forward, because everybody looks at these and they go, well, there's 300 units there, there's 500 units there, so there's no market for it. Well, if these are not real projects to be built, we're giving one property owner an expensive placeholding. And I think that's unfortunately, the history of why we have an arts district with no residential units, new residential units today. When a typical arts district in New York, where I believe Mr. Lieberman's from, if you go down into Greenwich Village, those are much lower height buildings, lower density of buildings, because for a creative class district, that's the kind of building that would go there. We took the arts district and everybody came along with, a 25-story, 30-story, 50-story, 40-story. And today we have a lot of just raw land and an impaired arts district, as opposed to if we treat this with real planning and say we have some 8, 10-story, some 6-story buildings that have the appropriate amount of parking with the appropriate amount of street retail and projects that don't take 3 years to build, we can have the most vibrant arts district in 3 years, as opposed to having a placeholder here that, if I understand you correctly, and if I misunderstood, please correct me, that you may not build this many units. I guess with regards to the arts district and making the arts district the most viable in the country and in this city for sure, we need to plan on developments that have a real opportunity to come together, so we don't just displace all of those potential residents and users within the arts district. And I guess I'm not seeing that this meets that plan. So if I'm wrong, please correct me.
I take exception to what you're saying, because what I'm trying to do is have an honest conversation. I'm not going to come and play games. Born here, moved our office down here. We do lots of projects down here because we care about our downtown. And so we're not going to take on a client who's just going to do these speculative things. We've come before you before with lots of those projects you talked about. Barnett's is as far as we're concerned, as real as you're going to get down here. He's put his money where his mouth is. He's bought land. He's doing other things.
Has he built any buildings downtown?
He's trying the best he can.
Okay.
So I'm not coming for you.
He's been here since
'64.
64. He hasn't built, or 74, 84, 2004. I'm sorry. And he's owned a lot of property down here, but not one building's been built yet. I want to see something done. I think these people that are living in Soho Lofts, that the people that have invested in galleries down here, the city of Las Vegas has invested a lot of effort into First Friday and in that whole creative area. We deserve to see things happening, and it's not going to happen by over-dense projects that there's no financing market for today. And I want an honest conversation with people when they come to build in the Arts District. I think the city of Las Vegas, I think this Planning Commission deserves an honest conversation on what we want our Arts District to be. So that's my concerns about the project.
Agreed.
Let me make a comment about my recollection of what we started off doing when we started talking about the Manhattanization of downtown. One of the basic comments that was made, or one of the basic elements of a highly dense downtown area, was reduced parking. We typically talk in terms of a parking space and a half for each unit. But part of the Manhattanization was to eliminate the parking, to encourage people to walk from point A to point B. Live close to where you work, shop close to where you work, have 16,000 square foot of retail space on the ground floor, not so that people could drive there and shop, but people could take the elevator downstairs and shop. That was part of the whole concept. And I remember us talking about that at great length years and years ago. And I think that's an issue of this high density, low parking ratio that we can't forget. I'm at this stage, and looking back on the success of the projects, I'm wondering how it's really working out. Manhattan is Manhattan and Las Vegas is Las Vegas. I mean, we're cowboys at heart, and we like our cars and our pickup trucks, and you're not going to replace them with a trolley or a subway. Unless you'd accept that as a condition. So I've got kind of mixed emotions on the whole thing. I don't know. Anybody else want to make comments?
I guess, Mr. Chair, just to share your feelings about the parking, it seems like the primary opposition has been with parking, and I don't know if there's a threshold we meet where everyone says there's too many cars parked on the road, and so maybe it's time to give up my car. I don't know when we hit that threshold. It would be nice to see more people on public transportation and walking downtown. So it is a trade-off for me between, how much parking do we want versus do we really want to create an urban environment downtown where we don't need that much parking. So I'm torn on this one myself.
I think the issue for me is that we've built so many of them, and so many are sitting there, and they're not being sold. And so now people are subletting or subleasing, or pretty soon they're going to become rentals. And not that I don't think this is a great project, because I live downtown. I live in the Rancho and Alta area. So I drive every day to my cleaners, and all I see are empty high-rises, and it makes me sad. So my opinion is this might be good in 5 years from now, but in this economy right now, today, I think we need to concentrate on what we have and get that going versus adding more to the clutter of what's empty. So I'm not going to support this project tonight. Thank you.
We ready for a motion?
Mr. Chairman, with regards to item 34 or 24. Oh, I'm sorry, I went too far up. I'm sorry, 26 and 27. With regards to item 26, I make a motion to follow staff's recommendation of denial.
A motion has been made. Please cast your votes. Post. motion to deny passes. Item number 27.
And with regards to items 27, follow staff's recommendation for denial.
Motion's made. Please cast your votes. And the motion carries to deny the request.
Mr. Chairman, these items go forward to City Council on September the 17th, September the 7th, sorry.
Thank you all.
Thank you. We now move to item number 28, which is variance 42-175. The applicant owner is Shirley Ritz Trust for possible action on a request for a variance to allow a 4-foot rear yard setback for a primary structure where 15 feet is required, to allow an accessory structure, Class 2, to be located in the front yard where such is not permitted, and to allow a 3-foot 6-inch high solid wall with a 3-foot 6-inch wrought iron top where 5 feet is the maximum height allowed in the front yard at 2222 Ash Avenue. Staff report, please.
Mr. Chairman, the additions to this property were built without permits that were not in compliance with Title 19. The variance request is to allow these structures to remain on the property. The staff finds the applicant has created a self-imposed hardship as there's no unusual shape to the lot. Therefore, staff recommends denial of the variance. Please note we've received an additional protest since publication.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, forgive my interruption, but I do need to abstain. My law firm represents the applicant owner, Shirley Ritz Trust.
Thank you. I'd like to declare the public hearing open. Anyone in attendance wishing to speak, please come forward and identify yourself.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Stephanie Allen, 8345 West Sunset Road, here on behalf of the applicant. If I could just direct your attention to the overhead. This site is highlighted in pink here. It's in the old downtown area. The closest major intersection would be the 95 and Eastern. It's actually located at the corner of 23rd Street and Ash Avenue. This is a residential area. You can see here the property is zoned R1. It's adjacent to R3 to the east and then surrounded by R1 on the other 3 sides. This application is before you today because code enforcement noticed that the block wall, I believe, was not in conformance with the code requirements. In addition to that, there are a few things that were previously built on the property that are not in compliance with code, so that's why we're before you today with a variance application. This property was actually built back in 1948, so this is an old, small residential home. This is the layout. You can see here highlighted in orange is a small laundry room addition that was made at some point in the 40s, 50s, 60s. My client took ownership of this property in 1998, so ever since she's owned this property, the laundry room addition has been part of the home. We have a setback reduction that we need to 4 feet where 15 feet is required, so that is the first part of our request. The back of this property is actually an alleyway. You can see on this aerial there's an alley behind all of these homes, so from an impact standpoint, you're not going to have any residents directly to the south that are impacted by that particular laundry room addition. I've also got a petition related to the laundry room and the block wall, which I'll get to next, with a list of homeowners in the area that have no objection to either the laundry room addition or the wall. So I've entered that into the record.
Thank you.
That's the first portion of our variance, is this laundry room addition here highlighted in orange. Additionally, there's a shed that was constructed, again, without a permit. Unfortunately, the contractor that was hired did not obtain a permit for either the shed or the block wall, which I'll get to last. It is in conformance with the look of the overall house. I'll show you a picture, but it looks nice. It's a nice looking structure. It's just a small shed. Your code does not allow accessory structures in the front yard, and this is technically considered the front yard because it's on Ash Avenue. Practically speaking, the front yard is 23rd Street. The tenant that lives here accesses the property on 23rd Street. The front door is on 23rd Street. So from a practical standpoint, 23rd Street is your front yard, but we understand from a code perspective ash is the front yard. So that's the second part of our application, is to allow that shed to remain in the front yard. The third part of the application relates to the block wall that was constructed. The property owner, as I mentioned, she has a tenant living here. This is a rental property. She had a number of vandalism issues with respect to the property. Drugs, graffiti, vandalism, all kinds of problems. So she opted to have this block wall constructed to prevent that from happening, and it's a substantial improvement. As you can see, she spent a lot of money hiring a contractor to construct this block wall. Unfortunately, it's higher than the code allows. This block wall part right here is 3 foot 6 inches. The wrought iron on top is another 3 foot 6 inches, for a total of 7 feet, where 5 feet is allowed under the code requirements. Additionally, the wall is within the right-of-way, which is consistent actually with the other residents in the area. All of the walls, for whatever reason, have been constructed in the future right-of-way. The good news is I doubt that either Ash or 23rd are going to be expanded anytime soon, so hopefully the city won't need that right-of-way, but she does understand if for some reason they did need the right-of-way, she would have to remove that wall. And there's a condition of approval that we apply for an encroachment permit, and we will certainly do that if this is approved tonight. As I mentioned, she has gone around to the neighborhood to make sure that no one has objections with this wall, and I did submit that for the record. I haven't counted the number of signatures, but this is the list of neighbors. You can see many of the addresses are on Ash Avenue, some of them on 23rd Street and the surrounding area. As far as the wall goes, the rear wall is consistent. Oops. Sorry. This is the block wall from the alleyway. So you can see it was built consistent with the block wall in the alleyway. It just unfortunately didn't receive the appropriate approvals. So I'm happy to answer any questions. Ms. Ritz has owned this property for a long time. It's an old property. She spent a lot of money trying to improve it to ensure that vandalism and other bad things were not happening on her property, and we'd respectfully request your approval so she can keep these improvements in place.
Thank you. Anyone else in attendance wishing to speak on this matter, please come forward at this time. Seeing none, I'll declare the public hearing closed and turn the matter over to the planning commissioners for discussion and possible motion.
Mr. Chairman, if I may. I actually drove by this site to take a look at it. I really didn't understand it whenever I was just looking at the backup information because there was so many code violations on this particular property. But I did notice that there was a permit. The house was built in 1948. A permit pulled in 1951 to do a remodel to the north end of the existing structure. And it very well could be that the laundry room addition was included underneath that original building permit. There's no records of a final inspection, but from 60 years ago, it'd be kind of hard to pull up those records. Another thing that I did notice in regards to this property is that the electric meter is on the outside of the laundry room, and if that was and that's the only electric meter on the house. So therefore, if this was an addition, the electric meter would have been relocated to the outside of the laundry room at the time the addition was constructed. And typically NV Energy or Nevada Power or whoever it was at that time would require an inspection to ensure that it's safe prior to running new overhead lines back down to the service panel. So I don't have a big issue with the expansion of the laundry room. And I would agree with you in all practical purposes that the property does front on 23rd Street versus Ash, just due to the front door, front porch, and the driveway comes in off of 23rd Street, and then I see that the accessory structure is 23 feet where 15 feet is required, so I wouldn't see a big issue with that. The third item is the fence. Was a licensed contractor hired to build this and construct this fence?
A contractor was hired. I don't believe that it was a licensed contractor, which is probably why she's in the predicament she's in today, because
Okay.
they didn't pull permits, and so unfortunately she did spend a lot of money on that contractor.
If she would have spent the money on a licensed contractor to do this, she would have had other remedies such as a residential recovery fund through the Nevada State Contractors Board. And also, he would have been bonded to protect him against these types of things. The applicant put approximately $35,000 into this property.
Yes.
I would agree that the section of the fence along Ash Avenue is fairly consistent with everything within a 3 or 4 block radius of this property. Not every fence, but I would agree that they're not going to widen this portion of the street, and a lot of the other fences are compatible with this. However, they didn't follow Title 19 on the height restrictions, and you can drive that neighborhood. Well, and I will say this: it is probably the best looking house in that neighborhood, but it ruins the curb appeal, and it almost makes it look like a compound with this 7-foot tall fence going around it. And if she was doing it for security purposes, she wouldn't have just done it on 3 sides. She would have done the 4th side too, which is the back of the house, where people probably would have entered that property. So would the client or would the homeowner be willing to go out and cut down the top 2 feet of that fence, take the metal fencing that's on top, and just lower it back down to where it should be, so it's compatible and harmonious with all the other properties within the neighborhood?
She would prefer to not do that. That's why we've applied for the variance. She does understand that that's her only option if a variance for that wall is not approved. It's just unfortunate that she's made the investment she's made, making the improvements on the wall, if she then has to tear it down or have a couple levels of it removed. I don't know that she's gone out and gotten bids on that to see how much that would cost, but she understands if the variance is not approved that would be the only option, is to actually remove it.
Well, sure, and tearing down that fence and putting it back onto the private property where it belongs and rebuilding the fence would be a lot more expensive than just tearing down 2 courses and reusing the metal fence that's on top of the solid block wall at this time. It seems to block every bit of curb appeal and all the improvements that they've made to this house. Another question I might ask is, in regards to the accessory structure that was built without a permit, and in regards to this block wall that was built without a permit, if it was an unlicensed contractor, how do we know that the footings and that the actual wall was built to any sort of spec that would pass this building and safety standards today?
I think we'll have to go get permits after this approval, so we'll have to go down that path as well. This is step 1, and
Okay.
we've got several steps still to make to get this into compliance. It's just, she didn't understand all of those. She's an elderly lady, the property owner. As I mentioned, she's got a tenant in there who's a single mom with several kids. Safety is very much a concern for her tenant's safety, as well as liability standpoint as the property owner in what's sort of a rough area at times. She had drug deals reported on her property because that northern portion was basically vacant entirely. So it almost looked like it was a vacant parcel because the whole house was on the south portion of the property. So the only way to block it off was to do a fence around the other 3 sides. The chain link was existing next to the residential, to the west, and there was a block wall already on the south. So it was just the north and the east side that she needed to enclose the property. Now there virtually is no access to the property unless someone's going to hop the fence or hop the chain link fence. It's completely enclosed, and she's not had the vandalism problems and the same issues that she was having previously as a result of the wall. The unfortunate part is it wasn't in compliance with code, and so here we are before you.
Well, Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
if I could,
Please.
Commissioner Schlaffer, you know, this is an older neighborhood, and I think this may be I kind of look at this as maybe a one and done type deal. I don't know if this is going to constitute a precedence there where everybody else is going to want to come back in and maybe put a wall of this type up, but we certainly have an issue with the wall. I would be more inclined to maybe have a structural engineer come out and do some testing on that wall to see if it's solid enough to sustain itself, which I think it is because it's been there for quite a while and it looks like it's in pretty good shape. It's painted. You know, typically I would see a wall like this, I would think it would be a perfect canvas for a graffiti artist, but I don't see much of that on the wall. But I would offer to probably have a structural engineer look at it. If it's solid, I'd be in support of probably approving it, and I think probably be one and done for that neighborhood. I think it's an older neighborhood. The house was built in 1948. I would suspect if other neighbors that have chain link fence want to come in and do something similar to this, then we would apply the new conditions and standards for them at that time. It's just a thought.
If I may join in here, the thought of having the homeowner get involved with a structural engineer to make a determination regarding the structural stability of the wall, I think is something that, quite frankly, is accomplished at the time when the applicant will have to go down and pull building permits, and the inspectors will go out and look not only at the wall and its integrity, but they'll also look at that electrical system and make sure that it comes up to current code. There may be other issues that have to be addressed that we're unaware of. You know, the front structure, if it has power, yes or no. It's silent now, but when the building inspector goes out, they'll certainly make that determination as to the safety and code compliance issues. So it'll happen at that time without getting involved with hiring a structural engineer. That so he gets the report, it still has to go to the building inspector. It's just an extra step that we
I just have a quick comment. I think you kind of lost me when you said there's young children living there with parents, and we as a commission have the duty to protect our citizens, and I'm just, you know, what I'm hearing is we don't even know if they're safe there. So what I'm trying to say is I don't think you'll see my support on just overlooking it and letting it go, because you've got kids in there and we don't know if they're safe. So you lost me.
Well, that was my point, is that when they pull the building permits, the inspectors will go out, and if it's not safe, they'll make them correct it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, then the kids will be evicted.
I think
Sounds like you're suggesting they evict them anyway.
It doesn't sound good.
if I could, Mr. Chairman, I think there's different issues. The laundry room, which is the only part that's habitable or part of the habitable structure, was constructed in the 40s, 50s, or 60s. We're not clear. I've pulled every building permit that exists with the city. There is, as the commissioner mentioned, there is a building permit for a remodel of the home that was done. I'm not sure if this laundry room was included with that or not. I don't think anyone's clear on that. But it was constructed. There was a meter put on it. Someone knew about that laundry room addition prior to 2011. So I would hope that as part of that initial permit that was pulled for the remodel, that was part of it. I don't know the answer to it. It's speculation, and there is no final on it. So I'd ask that that be grandfathered in, but I don't think we have any safety issues related to the laundry room that I'm aware of. I understand the wall, and I think we would have to be, I think that we'd have to have a structural engineer look at that wall in order to
That's
get
what the
permit.
building inspectors do. They come out and look at it and make that determination, whether it's okay or not.
Mr. Chairman, if I might.
Please.
I agree with Commissioner Goins on this. I really don't want to see this homeowner have to tear down that fence, remove a couple of courses or whatever. I'm a little bit more comfortable with the fence because it's only brick up to a certain spot, and then you get into that railing. I think the real issue is to, I would like to see this approved and then let it go to the building department for the appropriate permits. They can check the things that have been concerning the board today. Obviously, if it's not going to be up to code, they're going to tell them, and then it's a done deal anyway. They're going to tell them to remove it or repair it or bring it into code. So I would like to see this passed tonight.
Okay. Sounds like we're ready for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion for approval subject to all staff's as if approved conditions.
The motion has been made. Please cast your vote. Post. Motion carries with a no vote and an abstention. So the motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, this item will go forward to City Council on September the 7th.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
We now move on to item number 29, variance 42-432. The applicant owner is Conan and Jessica Turner for possible action on a request for a variance to allow a 3-foot rear yard setback where 35 feet is required on .45 acres at 6308 Jennifer Court, Ward 6. Staff report, please.
Mr. Chairman, the applicant is proposing to construct a 3,010 square foot addition to an existing 1,618 square foot single-family dwelling on an RE zone property. The addition will extend to within 3 feet of the rear property line with a minimum setback of 35 feet is required. Staff finds that this is a self-imposed hardship since there is room to construct the addition and meet all setback requirements. Staff recommends a denial. Please note we have received additional protest and support since publication.
Thank you. Now I'd like to declare the public hearing open. Anyone wishing to speak on the item, please approach the microphone and give your name for the record.
How you doing? Conan Turner, 6308 Jennifer Court, homeowner.
Thank you very much. Could you explain what your intent is with this large expansion of your home?
Yes, basically, it was an addition. It's an addition for my mother. Thank you very much. It's wound up too much. The problem I have with the setback is just that the way my lot is set up, it's kind of like a big triangle, and the only pretty decent way to do this was to extend it out like this. Now, it's only at one point in the yard. There's a lot of open space right here and wide open space right here. It's just actually at one particular point in the yard, which is the corner of the whole addition, is where that's at. There's, like I said, wide open space in both areas behind the proposed add-on and to the side of the proposed add-on.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in attendance who would like to speak on this matter? Seeing none, I'll declare the public hearing closed and ask you, Mr. Turner, do you have any letters of support from your neighbors that are impacted by the request for the...
No, I didn't bring any letters of support at this time. No, I did not. Honestly, within the last few weeks, I've had a lot of personal situations. I had to go out of town, and I have not really actually campaigned this with them. But I have spoke to my councilman, and who was very impressed by it. But I have not got any letters of support or denial from my neighbors. I have not. And I know that's good.
Have you contracted with a construction company as yet?
I was actually waiting at the time of approval or denial to actually get hard construction quotes at that time. I have talked to people and gotten round figures, but I was actually going to see the procedure because I've actually just been kind of going through processes of doing stuff and then not getting denied and then changing it a little bit, which changes the whole financial of everything. So it's like I have to get a clear path before I go through with any definite.
Clear paths are always preferred. Staff, did you receive protests? You said there were. Do we have numbers or anything like that where you could give us a better clue?
Yes, we received 8 protests and 1 letter of support since publication.
Speaking about the issue of a clear path, and I understand the hardship of doing anything the last couple of weeks. In all likelihood, it would probably be in your best interest if you'd request that this be held until the next meeting to give you the opportunity to go get some support from your neighbors. Lots of times when people send cards in protesting something, it's because they don't understand it. The most significant neighbors are the ones on either side and right behind you. If they don't have a problem with it, it looks like you're trying to make a real nice addition that will be an enhancement to the neighborhood. And once your neighbors understand that, the opposition may just disappear. And
Yes, sir.
so if that would be your request, we could not take action tonight, just obey it.
Yeah, I'd probably request to obey it. In the interim of all this, I've actually thought of a couple other routes besides doing this whole project. And I just basically came here to save face with all you guys, since you've all helped me. You've helped me. I've made several people jump through hoops right now, and I basically came here just to save face because I probably will not do this. Just to speak honestly with you.
Okay, well,
Just
then I
because
think that-
financially, just the whole thing, I've broken it down, and just the numbers of it, I can go buy another house for the price of this. And I could probably buy a couple of houses for the price of this from what I've got. So I was just basically coming here just to see if it was going to fly through. If it did not, so be it. I really wasn't overwhelmingly.
Well, then-
Mr. Chair, could I speak for just a minute? This is the second time that Mr. Turner is back in front of the commission. He was here several months ago, and just to refresh your memory, there were 2 accessory structures that he was looking for. One was to help store some of his mother or mother-in-law's belongings. Another one was for her to live in. He did have both some support and 1 or 2 opposition from neighbors back then. I have to take my hat off to you for what you've done, because this looks so much better. Really, the only issue that is before us now is this corner of the add-on, and knowing what's back behind that wall, no one would be concerned that I can think of as far as your neighbors go. There has been some communication through Councilman Ross's office from some of those neighbors. They've been assured that this add-on will be in harmony with your existing structure. And so I'd hate for you to give up. I'm prepared to make a motion that we approve this tonight, and I understand there may be some concerns from fellow commissioners, but I appreciate all you've done here. And if the chair will allow me, I'd like to go ahead and make that motion that we approve the item subject to the conditions and approve variance 42432, which is item 29 on the agenda.
Thank you. Motion has been made. Please cast your votes. Opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations. Do it if you want. Don't do it if you don't want.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Comes your call.
Mr. Chairman, this item is final action in the absence of an appeal within 10 days.
All righty.
Okay, we now move to item number 32, which is a special use permit 42225. The applicant owner is I Rent B and E LLC for a possible request or for possible action on a request for a special use permit for a proposed pawn shop use within an existing 6,039 square foot commercial building with waivers to allow a 557 square foot distance separation from a financial institution specified where 1,000 feet is required at 3500 West Sahara Avenue, Ward 1. Staff report, please.
Mr. Chairman, this is a request for a special use permit to allow proposed pawn shop use within an existing 6,039 square foot building located at 3500 West Sahara Avenue. The existing building is currently vacant but was previously a bank building. Staff recommends denial of the special use permit request because the proposed use does not conform to the requirements of Title 1912 and cannot be conducted in a manner that is harmonious and compatible with existing surrounding land uses, as is evidenced by the requested waiver of required separation distance. Please note that there are additional letters of protest for this item since publication.
Thank you. Now I'd like to declare the public hearing open. Anyone in attendance wish to speak, please approach the microphone and give your name for the record.
Good evening. I'm Winston Henderson, 1555 East Flamingo, on behalf of the applicant. We've gone through several communications to share the plans that the applicant has for this building. This was formerly an old bank building that has now been sitting empty for some time. Similar to other projects, other buildings, existing buildings along the area of Sahara and Valley View, this building had also fallen into disrepair. As you can see from the photographs, the current owner has already gone in and repainted the building, freshened the landscape, and is already taking steps to be a good neighbor. We understand that in our discussions with staff that as we understand it, the primary objection and reason for denial is because of the proximity. And if you will look at the overhead for a moment, you can see the location of the subject property and the property in question in terms of proximity. That the measurement for proximity, because both of these properties are in large shopping centers, the measurement actually comes from this point to this point, property lines. The actual locations of the properties door to door, as you can see, sits right at the required 1,000-foot separation. Other than that, we certainly agree with the recommendations of staff as if approved conditions in terms of compatibility with the surrounding shopping center. We believe that this building certainly fits the use that's proposed. As staff has indicated and stipulated, this does not present a health hazard or a detriment to the surrounding area. Again, it appears in our discussions with staff that the only issue is the separation, which we believe hopefully can be waived. As you can see, it is in fact very close to meeting the required separation. So with that, we would ask for your approval.
Thank you. Anyone else in attendance wishing to speak on this matter? Seeing none, I'll declare the public hearing closed and turn it over to the Planning Commissioners for discussion and possible motion.
Mr. Henderson, you were mentioning the distance separation. I guess the code says it has to be 1,000 feet.
Correct.
Is that correct?
That is correct.
And you're saying it's what?
Well, I'm saying as you look at the actual overhead of door to door, we're sitting right at the 1,000 feet, just very near to that 1,000 feet. But because the actual property line of the shopping center comes out to this point, and the property line of our building is out at this point within the shopping center, the effective distance is much shorter.
So I thought, staff, we measure this property line to property line or front door to front door?
That is correct, property line to property line for measurements within the city of Las Vegas.
Thank you.
This seems like a big structure for a pawn shop to me. It seems like a whole lot for what, I mean, are you going to use up all this space? What are your intentions? What do you plan to do?
Their intentions at this time are to use it primarily as a sales area to buy and sell items for jewelry and for loans. They don't anticipate using the entire building or entire structure as a pawn shop. And again, you can see from what they've already done with the building, it will be consistent with the surrounding financial institutions. You have several banks that are adjacent. So this will be a very high-quality facility, consistent with other facilities that the owners have in town now. So these are not new owners. They're experienced. They have other facilities which can be visited as well, which are very well maintained.
Mr. Chair, if I can ask a few more questions.
Certainly.
So I just want to be sure, is any part of this plan for a pawn shop? Do you really need, are you looking to get a pawn shop in here, or is it something less?
We are, as we have discussed with staff, we're applying under the pawn shop umbrella, which encompasses most of their other activities, which are going to be jewelry sales, buying and selling other goods. They anticipate at some time in the future that they will have pawn shop activities, but initially there will not be any pawn shop activities there at all. But they do want to be able to have that umbrella that keeps that open in the future.
And I appreciate your candor, and you've heard some of the discussion in front of the Planning Commission tonight about speculative zoning and, you know, what are we building now? One of my concerns is you're asking for more than you really need right now, and I think the more appropriate request would be on what it is that the current prospective land use is on this project. And for that lesser use, if I may, we really should be hearing a different request, one that is not for a pawn shop.
Well, these are pawn shop owners, and the owner is here as well, and he can address that further. But they are pawn shop owners, so this isn't speculative, and as you can see, they've already invested in the building, so this is not just a speculative application. They are, in fact, moving forward and fixing the building up. They own other properties, so this is not speculative in nature. This is their business, and it is part of their business plan to be able to move forward with it.
If I may?
Just
One moment, sir.
Let's let the commissioner ask his question first.
Let me, what I'm reading is a special use permit for a proposed pawn shop use.
That is correct.
So to that means to me that if I have an item that I need to come in and pawn to get cash, I'm going to come in there, give that item to you, you're going to assess it for a value, you're going to give me the cash in a slip, and I'm going to come back and retrieve that item over a period of time. Is that what happened? But hold on, and now you're telling me under this umbrella, we also are going to sell jewelry, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, but I don't see all that in this application. I mean, to me, that seems like you would have to come back in and apply for those additional licenses to do those other uses.
No, Mr. Commissioner, in fact, it's the other way, which is why we are applying as a pawn shop, that under the pawn shop license, all of the other uses are considered standard under that umbrella. And that is why we are, in fact, applying as a pawn shop. So it would have the capacity to expand their existing pawn shop activities, but it allows them to immediately do their other sales businesses right off the bat. So that is the intent.
Could you briefly tell me what the other uses are that fall underneath this pawn shop umbrella? Because when somebody comes here and asks for a pawn shop, they're getting a pawn shop. Now you're telling me about this umbrella, and I would like to know what falls underneath the umbrella of the pawn shop. Maybe I'm not, experienced enough in this.
I think that's an appropriate question for staff to answer rather than having an
Please.
applicant
Oh, thank you.
interpret our rules for
Yeah,
us.
thank you.
Mr. Chairman, through you. Yes, within the pawn shop use, the City of Las Vegas has applied a standard that it's a hierarchy of use, so that at the top of the use is auto pawn, which allows you to do the pawning of regular material and vehicles, then pawn shop. Then under that is financial institution specifieds, which are broken down into auto title loans, payday loans, and check cashing. With a pawn shop special use permit and license, the applicant would be allowed to take goods on consignment in exchange for a loan. They could take an automotive title in exchange for a loan. They could take a post-dated check in exchange for a loan, or they could cash a check for an amount that's not nominal in its fees. And all of those uses would be permitted under the pawn shop.
Mr. Chairman.
In addition to that, they can sell their goods that they take in that expire under pawn, as if it was a second-hand dealer.
So I could literally load up my car with everything in there and take it up there and give me a price on all of this.
If they're willing to make a deal with you, yes.
So then he could potentially have cars parked in the parking lot?
No, he's not applying for an auto pawn. That's the top level. Those are only permitted in the industrial zoning district. That is the top level. I was giving you the whole hierarchy of the financial institution specifieds and pawn shops. The top level is auto pawn. They did not apply for an auto pawn.
Gotcha.
They applied for a pawn shop. In relations to auto title loans, only the title is what is exchanged. The actual vehicle is not exchanged in an auto title loan exchange.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Commissioner,
I believe if you would, please, I believe the attorney wants to speak.
Yeah, let's be clear about something. I'm sure there's this umbrella out there, and yes, there's a hierarchy of use, but you're being asked to review a special use permit application for a pawn shop. So when we're sitting here talking about this, let's not talk about the financial institution specified. Let's not talk about the other uses under the umbrella, because that's not what we're here for. We're here for one use. It's a pawn shop. Is a pawn shop appropriate for this neighborhood? So what I want to do is try to help you kind of narrow your consideration, your scope. We're talking about pawn shops here. If they wanted to talk solely about financial institution specified, that's what they should have applied for. What I hear is we want to do a whole bunch of things, but not pawn right now. Well, guess what? Pawn's what's before this commission. And so it's really not appropriate for us to consider all the other uses when, in fact, the use that they're applied for is the pawn shop itself. It just so happens that the way the City of Las Vegas has looked at this issue in the past is through a hierarchy of use. But it would be my suggestion to this commission that we talk to the applicant about what they plan to do with regard to the pawn shop. And then if, in fact, all they want to do is tie financial institution specified, then maybe they should reapply and come in with that special use permit application.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Please, now proceed.
We believe that we've applied under the correct description, and that is the most straightforward and all-encompassing definition of what will happen here. And even though the pawn shop activity will not take place from day one, the applicants are pawn shop owners. They have other pawn shops. It is, in fact, their intention to have pawn shop activities at this location. So we don't want to come forward and misrepresent what would ultimately be in the location. We don't want to be deceptive in any way. That the intent is that their business plan will allow them to continue to expand their activities at this location. So we wanted to apply for the definition that most clearly met all of the activities that will be taking place there.
Mr. Chair, if I could,
Please.
through you, and let me just respond to that, and I appreciate the city attorney's clarification on this, which exactly goes back to my question. The city holds these pawn shop licenses, very strictly and carefully. we also require very careful setback requirements. You're here not only asking for a special use permit on that distance requirement, but to allow for a use on the land that's not going to be immediately used. And so you're not going to see my support on this. I think you need to come back and ask for the level of use that's intended right now. Then if you want to bump that up later, come on back and we can determine that. But as far as a public hearing goes, I'm not convinced that you've shown to me why you need a pawn shop permitted tonight, and therefore you won't have my support on this.
If anybody's done any other comments.
I concur with Commissioner Moody, because if you're asking for a pawn shop and we grant you that, when you open on day one, you better be doing pawn shop business right out the gate.
Then they are prepared to do that. They own pawn shops. They are prepared to do that.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Bill Dropkin, 2040 Edgewood Avenue. I currently own Pioneer Loan and Jewelry. It's 9,000 square foot. So as far as size, this application that was put in, the way we understood, was recommended by planning as an all-encompassing, because there was 2 special use permits that were going to be required. One was for an NRS 675 installment lending institution. The second was for a buy and sell secondhand dealership, secondhand dealer. Because they were 2 separate SUPs, it was relayed to me through my representatives that staff recommended that we request a pawn shop SUP. Now, as far as the future, I can only say that currently my application to the state of Nevada, NRS 675, is for a financial institution finance license doing installment lending at 40 APR. That's 3% a month. That's the lowest interest you'll find anywhere. The other side is as a buy and sell, to be allowed to purchase and sell jewelry, which we are experts in. This is why we have replied for the pawn shop SUP. This was not, we were not trying to slide anything under anybody. We were trying to do an all-encompassing one-time element where we could come forward, present ourselves, and be able to open as soon as possible. The building itself at 6,000 square feet does have a vault. It is fully secured. It is fully alarmed. It has its own, as you can tell, I'm sure you've seen, it has its own parking, relatively separate from the neighborhood. Access on and off of Sahara, so nothing else is affected. Other than that, if any other questions, I'd gladly answer them, but this is why we're here.
Okay, I have one more question, then I'd like to make a motion, if that's okay with everybody.
I'd like to make a comment before we make the motion.
Oh, okay. My question is, so when you guys open up, is the sign at 3500 West Sahara Avenue, is it going to say pawn shop, or is it going to say
Excuse me. No,
check cashing?
we don't do no check cashing. Okay, an NRS 675, and the City of Las Vegas has a special license, a finance license that is related to that. Is strictly an installment lending installment license. It does not allow for check cashing, auto title, or payday lending. What it will say is Sammy's Loans at 3%, and it will say Pioneer Buy and Sell. Those are the 2 names that will be on the building.
But your request is for a pawn shop.
The request, as I said earlier, the request was for a pawn shop SUP that supposedly, according to staff, would encompass. And that's why they recommended it. Otherwise, we would have had to be before you twice at an additional cost. As you all are aware, every time you apply, it's another $1,000. So we were advised to basically present it to you on
Well,
this.
sir, that's
yes.
the way we can moderate what's going on in our ward, in our neighborhood, what's going on in that business. So if you have to spend another $1,000 to tell me what's going on in your store, that's just the way it works.
Well,
mean,
I didn't make,
unfortunately.
with all due respect, I didn't make that was advice from planning.
Okay, well,
all I can
my
do is
colleague,
The intent in discussions with planning was to be very clear and forthcoming that the community did not feel that the applicant was trying to slide in any uses under a different name, under a different umbrella. We wanted to be very clear and very open with what we were asking for and what was going to be there. And as we discuss these different distinctions, and as you've listened to the explanation of the different NRS measures and different distinctions, it can be confusing to the standard neighbor. We wanted the neighbors and the community to understand clearly what was being applied for. We even went to the effort of setting up a neighborhood community meeting. The effort has always been to be completely forthcoming and clear on what the applicant was asking for.
Mr. Chairman, maybe I can try to clarify it. I'll be brief if you would allow me to. Yes?
Briefly from an attorney, we've got to all listen to this.
15 words or less. No. Here's the thing. Let me just make sure you all understand what it is I said. What I didn't say was you have no authority to vote on this tonight. You do. If you believe that a pawn shop use is appropriate for this location, make a motion to approve and vote yes. My point was, we're here on a pawn shop application. They can't make their burden. They can't prove their case by talking about financial institutions. They have to prove their case based upon whether a pawn shop is appropriate for this location. So, again, just to be very clear, you may move forward tonight on this pawn shop application if you see fit. If you don't think that this is an appropriate place for a pawn shop, nor the waiver is appropriate for a pawn shop, then you make the appropriate motion. But I just want to be very clear. If you feel like moving forward, you absolutely may. If you don't, then you make the appropriate motion. But you can if you want to.
And Mr. Chair and Commissioner Moody, what we absolutely did not want to happen is that we come in seeking approval, we gain that, and the neighborhood turns around and says, wait a minute, that's a pawn shop. How did that get here? We want everyone to know exactly what we're requesting because we believe this is a very appropriate surrounding area for the use that we're going to apply for. These are great owners. The pawn shops they have now are great facilities and they're operated well. That's why we want full disclosure so that the community understands clearly what we're applying for.
And we appreciate your straightforwardness, and I think that we all understand that your intent was to go for the authorization at the highest level and install something lesser, thinking that that would, if you
only initially. It will be that very shortly.
Correct.
The pawn activity
and I
will
certainly
be there.
understand the applicant's concern about every time you want to upgrade, it's going to cost you another $1,000. That seems difficult.
Mr. Chairman, I do have a question before we.
Please, okay.
Because, I understand your idea of full disclosure, but as this has gone on, it's confused the hell out of me. Usually we get an application for a pawn shop. We know we're going to get a pawn shop. Now we get an application for a pawn shop. We have no idea what we're going to get. Is this zoning so the applicant can open a installment loan center and sell the pawn shop rights to someone else?
No, they are pawn shop owners.
Is the applicant making a license application to the city of Las Vegas for a pawn shop license?
They will. That will come.
Well, see, then to me, let's vote on what they want today, and then when they want to come back, they can come back. I don't feel comfortable voting for a pawn shop approval when I know that's really, well, it might come later. I mean, this might be done under a secondhand dealer of jewelry. I'm, we're going to buy gold here. We're going to melt it down. I'm really confused on this one, and I can't support the pawn shop based on what's been presented.
I'm prepared to make a motion. We've talked about enough.
This horse knows where it's headed.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I'm going to make a motion to follow staff's recommendation for denial of SUP 42225 at this time. Thank you.
Motion's been made. Please cast your votes. Thank you. Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, this item goes forward to City Council on September the 7th.
We can now move to item number 33, which is special use permit 42252. The applicant is Dog Bites Back LLC. The owner is Winter Properties LLC for a possible action on a request for a special use permit for a 98 square foot retail establishment with accessory packaged liquor off-sale use with a waiver to allow a 0-foot distance separation from a religious facility where 400 feet is required at 9500 West Sahara Avenue. Staff report, please.
Mr. Chairman, this is a request for special use permit for an accessory packaged liquor off sale operated in conjunction with an existing 1,428 square foot deli. The proposed use does not comply with Title 1912 requirements and cannot be conducted in a manner that is harmonious and compatible with the existing surrounding development and land uses, as is evidenced by the requested waiver of required distance separation. Therefore, staff does recommend denial. Please note that there are additional letters of protest and support for this item since publication.
Thank you. I'd like to declare the public hearing open. Anyone in attendance wishing to speak, please approach the microphone and give your name for the record.
Good evening. I'm Laura Drea, 520 South 4th Street, here on behalf of the applicant and owner of the property. This applicant and owner operates one building which houses both an existing supper club serving Italian food and meals and an ethnic grocery store that imports food from Italy. With regard to the waiver, the owner's property is within a C2 commercial subdivision. It's located right here. The parcel lines of his property measure more than 400 feet from a religious institution, also within the C2 commercial zone subdivision that is owned by Clark County at this time. However, these two uses are considered the same property, and therefore we are obligated to file this waiver for the separation feet, for the separation of 0 feet where 400 is required.
Thank you. Anyone else in attendance wishing to speak on this matter? Seeing none, we declare the public hearing closed and turn the matter over to the planning commissioners for discussion and possible motion. Anyone have any concerns? I'll speak because it's in the area that I represent. I've been to this restaurant several times, and I've been into the Italian deli several times, and find that it's a higher end facility that's really welcome there in what's rapidly becoming a very attractive restaurant row. Its proximity to the religious facility, it's a matter of fact, I understand the door-to-door measurements, but more important to that to me is the fact that the restaurant row structures, which all involve alcohol, have been there prior to the religious facility, so they have some grandfathering rights in my humble opinion. And so that's my thoughts on the matter, and I would appreciate a motion to that effect for support.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
I would move to approve item number 33, SUP 42252, subject to all staff's conditions.
Motion's been made. Please cast your votes. Please post. Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, this item will go forward to City Council on September 7th.
Next, we go to item number 34, special use permit 42258. The applicant is Kids Happy Daycare Center. The owner is Shanta Vijay Kularatne for possible action on a request for a special use permit for a proposed child care group home, 7 to 10 children, with a waiver to allow access to the facility by means of a right-of-way, which is Oki Boulevard, with a width of greater than 60 feet at 6201 West Oki Boulevard in Ward 1. Staff report, please.
Mr. Chairman, the applicant is currently operating as a child care family home with a maximum of 6 children with a state of Nevada license. The applicant is proposing to increase the number of children at the current location up to 12, changing the classification of the land use of child care group home. The applicant is proposing to add 3 additional parking spaces in the rear yard of the property, including a van accessible handicap space with street access to Verde Jardin Way. A waiver is requested to allow access to the facility from Oki Boulevard, a street greater than 60 feet in width, to allow loading and unloading of passengers on site from either the front driveway or the parking lot located at the rear of the property, simultaneously to meet the requirement that all loading and unloading occur on site. However, the configuration is awkward for the number of children involved and will most likely result in this activity occurring in the public right-of-way. Staff is recommending denial as the use is not compatible with the surrounding residential uses, as is evidenced by the requested waiver. Please note that there is an additional letter of protest and support for this item since publication.
Thank you. Now I'd like to declare the public hearing open. Anyone in attendance wish to speak on the matter, please approach the microphone and give your name for the record.
I'm Sudashiri Vijayakularatna, 6201 Wistoki Boulevard, Las Vegas. I am on behalf of Shanta Vijayakularatna. I have 2 car garage now and driveway, access from Oki Boulevard, and 3 parking area at backyard, access to facility from Verde Jardin Way. And I can park my vehicle in the garage while the parents can drop off children at the front driveway or the back parking area at the same time. So I request for a waiver for driveway fronting Oki Boulevard.
Anyone else in attendance wish to speak on this matter? Seeing none, I'll declare the public hearing closed and turn it over to the planning commissioners for discussion and possible motion.
Let me ask you, ma'am, this is where you're currently, this is currently open and operating as we speak.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at the photos, and I don't know how to tell it, but I'm going to tell it like it is. I wouldn't take my child there. What are you going to do, and I know this isn't part of the application, but what are you going to do about the aesthetics and an attempt to make a well-kept, manicured facility?
Say again, please, I couldn't understand it.
The way that this looks,
Uh-huh.
it doesn't look very attractive. It looks dirty. I see graffiti on the wall. I see weeds and dirt. I see a fence that is in disrepair. And I'm concerned about kids that would be housed here. Do you understand that?
Yeah. Yeah. My kids, my daycare kids play area is backyard inside the walls, so that area is clean. I'm not using that outside area for kids.
But do you have any concern or care for how it looks?
I will in the future.
How far into the future?
I start tomorrow.
If I may, I understand you fairly well. My question is, do you understand me? If we have a language problem, then legally we really need to bring an interpreter if that would benefit your understanding of what's going on. Otherwise, the record that's being prepared will not be valid, because you could argue, I didn't know what they were talking about. And if that is the case, and I would leave that up to you to make the determination. If you would feel more comfortable having an interpreter, we can delay making a decision on this until such time that you could bring an interpreter with you that you'd feel comfortable with.
Okay.
That would be your benefit?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
if I could overstep my bounds and say, in the meantime, I'd clean up the outside appearance and bring some new pictures.
Okay.
Okay? So,
Mr. Chairman, could we ask the gentleman that's with her if he is,
it's her
if he
call.
could translate, or is the gentleman with you fluent in English?
Not like that.
Okay.
No. Well, she can
Thank
come
you.
back. You want to delay it a month? Is that what we? So I think we'd entertain a motion now to hold it a month
Okay.
till next month's meeting and come back and perhaps bring an interpreter
Okay.
and some pictures.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much. Motion, please.
Mr. Chairman, before the motion, can I ask staff a question? These are, the state comes out and licenses this and looks at the house, correct?
Mr. Chairman, through you, that is correct. The city does not issue any business licenses for this activity. It's all through the state.
So, and I'm just thinking from a business, for this being a business, isn't there some way to hold them accountable for the aesthetics and the exterior and the cleanliness of a property? Or is this a question for the state?
There are codes related to property maintenance that code enforcement can enforce regarding deteriorated walls and peeling paint and weeds, and those do exist for single-family homes or for businesses, and code enforcement can enforce those parts.
Thank you.
What do you say?
Okay. So do we have anyone willing to make a motion to continue this?
If
or
I could
hold
just
it?
make one point of clarification, Mr. Chair, and that is whether the city will provide the interpreter at the next meeting or whether the applicant will be
I
responsible.
think the applicant can bring in an interpreter. Could you?
That be okay?
Then the decision as to whether it was a qualified interpreter is up to her.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you.
Okay, so our motion is to hold your item number 34, SUP 42258, for 1 month. And when you come back here, what are you bringing? Right.
And an interpreter.
Thank you.
Motion's been made. Please cast your votes. Thank you. The motion to hold it for a month carries. We now move to item number 35 and related item number 36. Item number 35 is a special use permit 42262. The applicant owner is Bel Air RG LLC et al. For possible action on a request for a special use permit for proposed 15,263 square foot motor vehicle sales used at 1715 Fremont Street and 1735 Fremont Street, which is Ward 3. Also, the companion item 36 is a special use permit 42264 for possible action on a request for a special use permit for proposed 7,572 square foot auto repair garage major with waivers to allow service bays to face the right-of-way and to allow vehicles to be parked on the premises for the purpose of offering the vehicles for sale where such is not allowed. Staff report, please.
Mr. Chairman, the uses proposed by the applicant are both intense uses that require vehicular display and storage in addition to the parking required for customers and staff. Although the site is located in the downtown Centennial Plan area, where the parking requirements are not automatically applied, the subject site is substantially deficient in parking, providing only 45 spaces where 98 would normally be required. These spaces are independent of the spaces provided for display for vehicles for sale, 20 of those, and 12 for storage for the repair facility. In addition, the approval of the special use permit for motor vehicle sales would circumvent minimum special use requirement number 7 of the auto repair garage major, which prohibits the display and sale of vehicles at a site used for auto repair garage major. Staff does not support the requested waiver nor the application, as staff finds that it is not compatible or harmonious with the uses proposed on site or the surrounding uses in the area. Please note we have received additional letters of support since publication.
Mr. Chairman, my primary residence is in this neighborhood in the notification area, and I've built a community in the notification area, so I'll be abstaining on the next two items.
Thank you. Anyone else in a similar predicament? Nope. Okay, then we can proceed. Declare the public hearing open and invite anyone who wishes to speak on this matter to approach the microphone and give your name for the record.
Hello, Laura Drea, 520 South 4th Street, here on behalf of the applicant. These two use permits that we're requesting have previously existed in these buildings. The use permits came before you last December, at which time the Commission asked that changes to the site be considered, most notably for cross-parcel circulation and aesthetic upgrades to bring the site closer to the guidelines of the Centennial Plan. Of course, at that time, staff wasn't commenting on the site plan design because these are only use permits versus a site plan review. Nonetheless, we've addressed some of the site plan issues. We've redesigned the parking lot to include internal landscaping and cross-parcel circulation, I should say. We're removing razor wire and chain link fencing and all non-permitted structures that you see in the photos rotating before you. Canopies over auto bays will be added by tenants once they've signed their lease to further contribute to the architectural standards of the Centennial Plan. And note that the staff does recommend approval for the waiver to have bays facing the right-of-way. I'll now address the waiver that staff didn't support. It's to allow cars for sale to exist on the premise of a major repair facility. As previously mentioned, staff requested these parcels be consolidated to share circulation and access. The auto sales permit will be held by a separate entity from the repair garage, and as a result, a de facto waiver is needed. I'd like to speak to the record again to say that the auto repair facility will not have a license to sell vehicles. Please note that we are agreeing to a condition that reads that the site will not have banners, pennants, inflatable objects, flags, or any other attention-gaining device on this property. As some of you have a problem with auto sales, the applicant is willing to ensure that all automobiles are sold at a price of $4,000 or higher. In looking at the staff conditions, I'd like to address number 4 of the motor vehicle sales, which states that the development conformed to the landscape plan submitted. I'd like to add one more sentence to ensure that additional crepe myrtle trees are to be placed 30 feet apart adjacent to the Fremont Street property line. And we agree to all other staff conditions.
Thank you very much. Anyone else in attendance wishing to speak on this matter? Seeing none, I'll declare the public hearing closed and turn it over to planning commissioners for discussion and possible motion.
Mr. Chairman, I understand that as this has come back previously to us, the issue of the fencing, the razor wire, the improvements always were a major issue. I agree with the applicants as much as we want the properties consolidated to circulate, but yet by doing that we create the barrier to the use, at least as I understand it. But I do feel that the improvements being made here are a dramatic change to that corridor there, and this, unlike some of the other projects right in that immediate area, this would be an enhancement if the applicant went forward and did these improvements. So.
I've got to acknowledge that the photographs that I'm seeing certainly want to give me cause to encourage any type of improvement there that's going to change the look for the better. This is not what we want on what is one of the major entrances to the Fremont Street. It's the corridor, and it's just not right, and it can either stay like it is, or we can make some concessions and hope that it moves in the right direction. You talk about selling vehicles for $4,000 or more, which gives me the indication that these are not going to be blatant junkers, if that's a term, which is encouraging. But I do see the existence of the remnants of what was previous car lots, like the sign that's right there now has a ramp where you could drive a car up on the thing. And I also see a couple of platform ramps where people could drive the vehicles up on those things and sell them. And those, to me, constitute some fairly significant encroachments on the, if not the actual right-of-way, on the visual package of the property. And I wonder what we as a planning commission could do to not let that thing go back into use. See the picture I'm looking at now?
I do.
Not what I want people when they first
this.
come to Fremont Street to say, wow, look at that. Isn't that cute? That doesn't fall in the cute to me. So what can we do to ensure that someone is going to follow through with what I'm sure their intentions are at this point? The razor wire, not permittable.
We do have conditions, for instance, condition number 8 in SUP 42264 that reads all abandoned signage encroaching into the public right-of-way, graffiti, razor wire is number 7, fencing that should be moved within 60 days of approval. We can certainly add that those ramps need to be removed within 60 days of approval, add that to that condition.
And the ramp to that circular sign or that concrete structure there, that just,
That's true. I have looked into that. The applicant is willing to remove that base. However, it should be noted that these buildings have existed since, I think it was mapped in 1940, built circa 1947, 1950, and at that point in time, I don't believe that was right-of-way, based on my research. The right-of-way was kind of
I'm
around
not
it.
trying to
We're happy
hold
remove
anybody
it.
accountable for its development. I'm just saying its time has come.
Right. And there is a condition saying signage encroaching into the right-of-way. Is that base considered signage, somewhat like some of the electrical stuff is that hovers over the sidewalk? We'll consider that signage as well and remove that within 60
What
days.
hours of operation for the mechanic shop are we talking about? I mean, we don't want to have people in there operating those air guns at 9 o'clock at night, keeping people awake that are all within earshot.
That I haven't discussed with my client, but I'm willing to accept a condition saying hours not to exceed 9 p.m.
Oh, I don't want the thing going off during my 6 o'clock news, to tell you the truth. You ever had an air jack? You know what I'm talking about. What the heck is the term for those things? You got a mechanic in the house, an air gun. Where you impact wrench. There you go. That takes the tires on and off. It'll rattle your fillings right out of your head. I would have to ask for some help from the planning staff to come up with some appropriate language that would help us regulate the hours of operation and perhaps noise levels associated with the facility. Can we think about that while I let somebody else talk about their concerns?
Well,
Mr.
excuse me,
Please.
just briefly. We met today, and we had yesterday. I mean, we had a nice conversation. I was very honest with you. It's hard for us as a commission to control used cars for sale on West Sahara, where they're parking them on sidewalks, they're parking them wherever they can, and I find it almost impossible to think that this would be any easier. It would probably be even worse. So I don't have any way of supporting any used cars being sold off of this. I look at this part of our city as the opposite side of the gateway to downtown, as the side that's already being redeveloped. And I think we as commissioners owe this part of town as much allegiance and graciousness as we've given the other side. And something like this, to me, is just not the welcoming corner that I would like to see coming into Fremont Street. So you're not going to see my support today, but I did tell you that yesterday too, so I feel honest. Thank you.
Commissioner Goins?
I want to know what's going to happen to the lot if it's approved. I mean, I looking back through the notes, I think this was One of these buildings was built back in 47. I think the other one was built in right around 63. If it's going to be approved as a used car lot, it would be nice to take it back to its vintage days. I'm looking at the light fixtures that are out in the parking lot and some of that signage there. Would the intent be to remove that, or would it be to refurbish it and bring it back to that nostalgic look? And I can almost feel Commissioner Evans right now at home getting up close to his television. So can you kind of tell me what's the plan, if approved?
We like the lights. They're not in violation of any ordinance. You're right, they are nostalgic. I'll concede that some of them have to be straightened up and refurbished, but our intent right now is to keep those.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other thoughts or comments?
I do have a comment. Perhaps Steve Gabecki could help me out here. To address your concerns over noise, Steve, it is necessary for a major auto repair to do all of their work inside with the gates closed to mitigate that noise, correct?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, that is a requirement of the auto repair use.
Thank you. But there's no hours of operation restrictions.
No, sir, there's no requirement for limitations on hours.
Mr. Chairman?
Please.
Just to address
Mr.
one of the
Franks.
concerns about those platforms that are out there, can we put it as a condition that there's no elevated cars on the lot?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, yes, you can.
That would probably resolve that issue, that you were talking about, Commissioner Trowbridge, about those ramps that are up front there.
So I'm hearing one additional condition regarding no elevated vehicles for sale, and the suggestion for hours of operation of the auto repair major not go on past, what are they normally, 6? Is that an outrageous requirement, that they stop at 6?
Let's try that. I'm willing to make a motion.
Please.
I do think the applicant's come a long way in making this a better site. I'm going to make a motion to approve, and I forgot which number they came up as. Number 35, subject to all staff's as if approved conditions. The additional condition requiring no elevated marketing pedestals for cars.
May I suggest no elevated display of vehicles on site?
That's a better way to describe it. And that the auto repair major run from 7 a.m. in the morning till 6 p.m. in the evening.
Mr. Chairman, if I might, if you're making a motion, that second part would go on.
Oh,
item
the
number
second one,
36.
that's right, I'm sorry. Okay. So that's my motion.
Motion's been made. Please cast your votes. Opposed? The motion carries.
And with regards to item 36, motion is for approval, subject to staff's as if approved conditions. Again, the additional condition that limit no vehicles, would you say?
May I suggest, through you, Mr. Chairman, the hours of operation shall be from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Yes.
And that's in regards to SUP 42264 for major automotive repair.
And just so we're clear, since we're merging the lots, I'd like to make sure that we also add the condition that no vehicles are displayed, so they don't put cars over on the other lot and say, okay, now we have them up on a... You see what I'm getting at, or is that...
Yeah, we can add the condition, no elevated display of vehicles.
And I really hope that you do the landscaping the way you presented it and it comes forward. I think the historic nature of that triangular sign can be incorporated and done very nicely. So I do make a motion for that approval.
Motion's been made. Please cast your votes. Opposed? The motion carries.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, those items go forward to City Council on September the 7th.
Now I'd like to call a brief recess. Sorry, those of you that have been waiting for a while, but we've got a requirement for an intermission. So, thank you.
Hey, Laura?
Call the meeting back to order.
Okay, we now return to item number 37, special or site development review 41770. The applicant is Suk J. Kim. The owner is JWB Nevada Investment Series B LLC. It's for possible action on a request for site development plan review for the conversion of a single-family residence to a 1,488 square foot office building with waivers to allow landscape buffers widths of 5 feet along the west perimeter where 15 feet is required, 3 feet along the north perimeter where 5 feet is required, and 0 feet along a portion of the south perimeter where 5 feet is required at 344 South Jones Boulevard, Ward 1. Staff report, please.
Mr. Chairman, the proposed development is compatible and harmonious with the adjacent professional office zoning properties located south of the site. Staff also finds that the waivers and exceptions requested are minor and are being supported by staff, as the building will maintain the appearance of a single-family residence and it will be harmonious with adjacent single-family residents to the north, east, and west. Staff is recommending approval of this request. Please note we have received additional letters of support and protest since publication.
Thank you. I'd like to declare the public hearing open. Anyone in attendance wishing to speak on the matter, please approach the microphone and give your name for the record. Your name, sir?
Well, I have come here as an audience at the request of the owner, Matthew Chung, and but I've decided to stand on this podium to help them out.
Thank you very much.
And this is Mr. Lim, his wife, and they're the contractors? Yeah.
Okay. And you have the recommendation of staff to approve this. The first question is, do you accept the conditions that staff has placed in this development?
I mean, while you were all on break, recess, I've talked to them, and basically Mr. Lim is asking for asking to have all the conditions waived. So, but then, I mean, we haven't had a chance to review the conditions and recommendations. So perhaps, I mean, come back.
Come back another
yeah,
day.
I mean, review the recommendations, because I know that, I mean, personally, I mean, there are lots of conditions and recommendations, and to have them waived, to have all of them waived, may be unreasonable, and I think we should go over them one by one, and yeah.
I agree.
Yeah,
Mr. Chairman,
so-
if there isn't an objection, I would ask that we hold this for 30 days
And
to
what
the
about
September.
item 38?
Yeah. 37 and 38, because I think, obviously, I don't think anybody up here is going to waive all the conditions along that street. But
Right.
Wait, okay. Just 1 second, let me, I may have miscommunicated to you,
Okay.
so let me clarify that first, and then, yeah, I mean, convey
Please.
that to you. 예. 근데 아니 아까 그 컨디션이나 웨이브는
It said okay.
그러면 오케이. 컨디션 웨이브하는 게 아니다고 말했어요. Okay, yeah, correction. Yeah, I mean, they do accept the recommendations and conditions. So, yeah, and they want to discuss it. I mean, if you have any objections or issues with them. So,
No,
like,
if they're willing to accept the conditions, then that's the
And
motion.
I'll withdraw
Okay.
mine.
Mr. Chairman, can we just ask the question, have you read and understood the conditions, get an answer, and, because I just want that to be very clear for the record.
Very good. The question is, have you read and do you understand the conditions that are being
Yes.
requested of you?
Yes, sir.
And you do accept them? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, then let me do the procedural stuff. Anyone else in attendance wish to speak on this matter? Seeing none, I'll declare the public hearing closed and turn it over to the planning commissioners for discussion of possible motion.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if they're in agreement with the staff's recommendation conditions, I'll make a motion for approval subject to all staff's conditions on item 37.
Thank you. Motion has been made. Please cast your vote. Please post. Okay, that was approved. Now in
With
regards to
regard
item number
item
38,
38, I move for approval subject to all
Yeah.
staff's conditions.
we have a,
Okay.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, first we need to read the item into the record and then
okay,
open the
all
public
right,
hearing
let's
on
do-
that
Okay,
item.
now in regards to item number 38, site development review. Site development review 41771, the applicant is Sokje Kim, the owner is JWB Nevada Investment Series C LLC, for a possible action on a request for site development plan review for the conversion of a single-family residence to a 1,492 square foot tutoring center with waivers to allow landscape buffers widths of 0 feet along a portion of the north and south perimeters where 5 feet is required, and 7 feet along the west perimeter where 15 feet is required at 404 South Jones Boulevard, Ward 1. Staff report, please.
Mr. Chairman, staff supports the waivers and as they are limited in nature and are compatible with the surrounding properties in the area. Please note we have received additional letters of support and protests since publication.
Thank you. Now the declared public hearing open. Anyone wishing to speak on the matter, please approach the mic and give your name.
He's John Rim and 44 Sally Creek, Las Vegas, Nevada 89148. There was residential and he changed it to the commercial. So PR zone, changed it to the PR zone, so we request that.
Okay. You've read the conditions that staff has placed and you understand them and accept them?
Yes, we accept him.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone else in attendance wish to speak on this matter? Seeing none, declare the public hearing closed. Turn it over to the planning commissioners for discussion and possible motion. You want to say something?
No, we're okay.
You're okay with it? Yes. Okay, thank you.
Go ahead.
Can I ask a couple of, just a quick questions? You guys are the owners of this?
No, I mean, as I've stated previously, I'm here, I've originally come here as an audience at the request of the owner. He's out of town and specifically asked me to attend this hearing and, brief him on the motions and everything, so that's why I'm here.
Is Mr. Lim,
Yes.
is he or she the owner?
Yes, he's the owner.
Okay, because I mean, I see we're having difficulty with the language barrier, but I'm
Yeah.
looking at your justification letter where it says that this school is going to be for students in high school or college who are having trouble with their English. So
Sorry. But he's not a teacher. Sorry about that.
So you're going to employ teachers to be there?
Yes, sir.
How many?
선생님 몇 명이세요? 4 teachers.
And how many students will be at the house at any given time?
저기 4명 있었더니. 4 teachers. I mean 4 teachers, 4 students.
And it's 1-to-1 ratio.
그냥 있으세요.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Ready for a motion?
If there are no other comments, I'll make a motion for approval, subject to all staff's conditions of approval. And I believe Commissioner Quinn had a concern about a one-year review.
Yeah, just for the landscape, I want to make sure
Okay.
they follow.
So if we can have a one-year review, administrative review
Thank you.
on the landscaping? Is that possible or is that inappropriate?
There are, the city conducts annual reviews of all site plan reviews that are approved as an administrative item and function of code enforcement. All the site plans that the council and the commission approve get an annual review.
Oh, that's
Then we don't need to add it to the motion then. My motion is
Okay.
as stands.
Motion's been made. Please cast your votes. Please post.
ready. Oh, okay, thank you. See.
And the motion carries. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, items 37 and 38 go forward to City Council on September the 7th.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We now move to item number 39, Site Development Review 42-251. The applicant is the Clark County School District. The owner is the School Board of Trustees for possible action on a request for site development plan review for a proposed 79,513 square foot public school, K through 12, at 2800 Stewart Avenue, Ward 3. Staff report, please.
Mr. Chairman, this project is located within the CV Civic Zoning District and is a portion of a larger Clark County School District site containing existing playgrounds, courts, and athletic fields, an enhanced streetscape consisting of a 7-foot wide sidewalk and a 5-foot wide amenity zone at the back of the curb containing shade trees is to be provided along Stewart Avenue. There is ample landscaping provided for the project. However, due to the distribution of trees, an exception is needed to allow 13 trees along the west perimeter where 15 trees are required. Staff supports this request as there are 63 additional trees located throughout the property that offset the request. The proposed site plan is well designed and is an appropriate use for the site, and staff does recommend approval. Please note that there is an additional letter of support for this item since publication.
Thank you. Now I'd like to declare the public hearing open. Anyone in attendance wish to speak on the matter, please approach the microphone and give your name for the record and state your case.
Good evening, Chairman, Commissioners. Linda Perry, 4190 McLeod Drive, representing the Clark County School District. I'm here tonight. I'm very pleased to bring before you a school that has been needing remodernization for many, many years. We are relocating the Variety School. It's not a traditional school in the sense that it's like a 725 elementary, a 1750 middle school, or a 2700 high school. It is a school for special needs students. And currently, if you can kind of see it, it's on the corner here of Sunrise and 28th Street, and we're just relocating it to the old Roy Martin site. And we relocated Roy Martin kind of to the south of that. So we're going to utilize that property, and we're going to build a whole brand new school for the kids. We concur with all staff conditions, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Anyone else in attendance wishing to speak on this matter? Seeing none, we'll declare the public hearing closed and turn it over to planning commissioners for discussion of possible motion.
Mr. Chairman. So Variety will locate to the new facility here?
Correct.
And what happens with their old facility?
That's still kind of in flux. We're not really certain whether we're going to tear it down because the building is so old. It was built in the 50s, and there's so much they have to go in and kind of do the HVAC and all the remodifications that need to go in there, so we're really not sure. If anything, it'll probably be used for offices, but at this point in time, we're not going to utilize it at all.
Oh, I think it's great. I think Variety deserves a new environment, a new school, and I will support this.
This is really exciting. They have a really great site plan, and it's going to be just fantastic for those kids. It's going to be like a whole new world.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Please.
When do you anticipate construction starting on this school and students being able to occupy it?
We are going to start demoing the site. We've kind of started clearing it a little bit and hopefully start construction within a couple weeks. And we hope to have it open for the August 2012 school year. So we're trying to push that through and get it done as fast as we can.
Okay. Ready to make a motion?
If there's no other comments, I'd like to make a motion to follow staff's recommendations and approve agenda item number 39, SDR 42251.
Motion's been made. Please cast your votes. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Mr.
Thank
Chairman,
you very much.
That item goes forward to City Council on September the 7th.
Okay, we now move to item number 42, which is Directors 42-4 for possible action on the election of new Planning Commission officers for the remainder of 2011. I don't think any public hearing is necessary, but we're ready for a motion if someone wants to make it.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion that you be made chairman for the remainder of the term through this year, and that Commissioner Quinn be made vice chairman through the remainder of 2011.
That's so nice of you, Brad.
Well, I think I got a question on that.
Please. Please.
I'd be proud to second that motion.
Okay, well, let's get a
Let's make her
decision
cry.
out. Do we need to get some other candidates to run, or is everyone else sufficiently out of the way?
If Rick says.
Okay, motion's been made. Cast your votes.
Not the debt ceiling issues.
Please post. Wow, thank you. This is the first campaign I've won in a long time.
Do we have to get you a queen's chair, or are you happy with that one, Commissioner Quint?
Just Rick recommending me as chair enough for me, really.
Okay, the next.
Is that a Trish's doghouse? Is that a my doghouse?
We now have item number 44, which is Directors 42-500 for possible action on the appointment of new members to the Downtown Design Review Committee. These two, I understand, will be for the remainder of 2011. We have a vacancy created by the expiration of Steve Evans. So,
Oh.
you want to make the motion?
I'd like to nominate Trinity Schlotman to replace Steve Evans on the Downtown Design Review Committee at this time.
Thank you. A motion has been made. Please cast your votes. Please post. And another, see? The new guy gets the job. Okay, next we have item number 45, text amendment. It's 42-360. The applicant, owner is the City of Las Vegas, for possible action to amend Table 1 of the Town Center Development Standards to establish regulations, applicable zoning distance, and requirements for pit boarding, small wind energy system, and solar panel uses. Staff report, please.
Mr. Chairman, this text amendment to modify the Town Center Development Standards comes as we identified a few uses that were missing that were needed in the Town Center area. Pet boarding use is similar to the hospital, clinic, shelter without outside pens, and which is already permitted in the Town Center. And staff finds this is consistent with Title 19-12 and the Town Center Guide. In regards to the small wind energy systems and solar panels, this would conform to the Nevada Revised Statutes 701B as updated by the 2009 legislative session. And staff recommends approval of adding all three uses to Town Center, and is looking forward
Thank you
to
very
your
much.
discussion. And
Do we need a public hearing on this? Okay, now I'd like to thank you for the staff report. Now I'd like to declare the public hearing open. Anyone in attendance wishing to speak on this proposal, please approach the microphone and give your name for the record. Seeing none, I'll declare the public hearing closed and turn it over to the planning commissioners for discussion possible motion. Where's Todd?
That's why the meeting's over at 9 o'clock.
Oh.
Mr. Chairman, if there are no other comments, I'll make a motion for approval.
We have a motion for approval.
Yeah.
It's the truth.
Motion's been made. Please cast your vote. Motion carries. We now move to the citizens' participation portion of the agenda. Public comment during this portion of this agenda must be limited to matters within the jurisdiction of the Planning Commission. No subject may be acted upon by the Planning Commission unless the subject is on the agenda and is scheduled for action. If you wish to be heard, come to the podium and give your name for the record. The amount of discussion on any single subject, as well as the amount of time any single speaker is allowed, may be limited. Anyone wishing to speak during the public or the citizens' participation, please approach the microphone.
Mr. Chairman, I do have a point of order that text amendment 42360 will be forwarded to City Council in ordinance form.
Thank you. Was that your citizens' participation, or is that as a staff?
That was just a point of order.
Oh, okay, thank you. Seeing no one approach the microphone for discussion, I'll declare the citizens' participation portion of the meeting concluded, and that will end our meeting. Thank you very much for